Uh, Hello, everybody, all you wonderful Voidwalkers. We're back once again. We are the Confabulators. I'm Dave.
And I'm Liz.
And we have a special guest.
We do. Please, Voidwalkers, welcome our dear friend, Rachel.
Hello.
Rachel, come on down.
I have arrived.
Excellent. So just for the audience, Rachel, would you like to introduce yourself? Give a few quick little bits about yourself. Whatever you feel like would be relevant.
Well, I'm Rachel, a longtime friend of our beloved Confabulators. Also a longtime horror fan of all media. I do games. I go by the handle Shigbot and Countess of Ol on various things, but I'm not regularly active on all of them because adulting.
That is a fair reason. Adulting. Remember when it used to be easy? You could just get up and spend like a Saturday morning just playing games, and it'd just be like, this is all I have to worry about in life.
Those were the good old days.
Yep.
Yep, Voidwalkers. So we are excited because, as you all see, this is also our first time ever with a special guest. And Rachel is joining us today because we are going to have a very special conversation about... Dun dun dun. Women in horror, otherwise known as our Scream Queens, the ladies of the lair. I don't know, I'm making this up as I go now. I was like, don't say ladies of the lake, that's a totally different...
Yeah.
Unless we're going for the horrors of King Arthur, which probably could be possible, you know.
The Sheaves of Slaughter.
I think there's a horror movie named Lady of the Lake. Isn't that with
Lady
Paul
in the Water.
Giamatti?
No, it's Lady in the Water. And that was the Shyamalan one.
M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong.
You're who I got that from. So, folks, as Rachel said, we
like
all go way back.
Apartment complex pool or something?
Yes.
Something like that.
I think so, yeah.
One of those cheap, expensive LA series of apartments that has a small pool in the middle. Those are basically run by slumlords. Allegedly, just for the sake of lawyers, allegedly slumlords. My personal opinion, not something I am attributing as fact. And it's full of tons of people in those places because it's comparatively affordable. Especially when you can get, depending on the size of it, 3 to 5 people in there.
Yeah. They're the apartments that are only maybe a half step above a hotel room.
Yeah. They are.
But for LA, where you charge an arm and a leg for a closet, it's relatively affordable.
Which is why my lovely abode is such a steal. Because it's actually really big for what I pay.
Yeah.
I pay less in this apartment than I did living in a 1-bedroom in Texas.
Or you could have an entire house in the middle of nowhere and probably pay the same amount.
Adult problems.
Yeah.
Well, on to our exciting topic today, because we have been very excited. I feel like, Dave, women in horror has been on our list since the beginning.
We've had episodes where I don't want to say dance around that specifically, but I don't want to say adjacent either, because that's not true. They're related in that they do feature women and address issues involving women, such as the X trilogy, which the first part has been released already, episode 10.
By the time this comes out, I think both parts will be out, actually. So
the next one should be out next week.
Yes.
Yes, but by the time we release this episode, it'll already have been out.
It'll already be out, yeah. But we've also talked about others like Evil Within. We talked about Mira at length,
Oh,
as well as Kidman. I believe we talked a fair bit about her, but more so Mira
yeah.
because she's
Oh,
related specifically to
Myra?
Sebastian.
My
Myra,
yes.
Mira, yeah,
Moira, who I spent that
Moira.
entire conversation calling her Moira, only to realize, like, weeks later that her name was Myra.
Oh my
Look,
goodness.
look.
I've played this
What?
game so many times, and apparently that's just my view on her that I can't get her name right.
Alright, so
What?
remind me again, what was the name of the character that you knew exactly who I was talking about when I said, "What was that?" This was also a female character in The Evil Within.
That was
Was
Myra.
it like that was her?
Cum Beast. It's
Oh,
either
yeah.
Cum Beast or Laura.
Laura! It was Laura! Yeah.
Oh,
Laura.
yeah, Laura. Laura. Oh, yeah, because you haven't gotten to Evil Within, too, so.
No, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no. So you haven't met Cum Beast yet.
No.
But yeah, Laura is the Evil Within one female.
Boogeyman.
Yeah. Interesting thing on this subject was I was talking with a coworker the other day who's a screenwriter by trade. You know, neither of us work in it right now, but he did mention a comment of like having the epiphany of years ago of realizing that the primary market for horror was 25-year-old women, which I just went, that makes sense. Like, in a weird way, that explains a lot. But it was a weird aside, too, that I was just like, huh? Okay.
I always figured
Okay,
it
I
was
kind of
more
get it.
marketed towards men, but I
But
guess it depends on the horror.
Yeah, it depends on the horror, but yeah, that was his discovery as a screenwriter many, many years ago.
Okay.
The primary market, not the main market. I feel like that market's getting older now, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
As-
Horror has evolved as a genre considerably. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're
Well-
excited for this, so we get to talk about our ladies of terror.
Well, if I'm going to pose a question, if it's true that women within, say, the range of 25 or so are the ones who gravitate more to horror, my question would be, why do you think that is?
I mean, it's funny to me is I don't even necessarily... It's funny because... Actually, no, rethinking that, because that actually was probably about the age range that I started to become reinterested in horror, now that I think about it. Now, I wasn't paying attention to a lot of, like, the newest stuff, but I kind of wonder if some of it has to do with, like, the average age of leaving home. Like, going to college, getting exposed to other ideas, other perspectives. Rachel, you and I go way back to undergrad years, and I mean, part of what's helped me go into horror is having your influence and enthusiasm for it.
that's true. I've been a horror fan since high school, so, you know, I've been dancing around that age range.
Yeah, yeah. But I wonder, like, as some of it is just being exposed to kind of getting out of the shelter of home. And I will say, I've noticed, like, it isn't uncommon for horror. I've been watching a lot of Criminal Minds lately, and how often the victims are literally, like, women
That
in their
age and
20s.
women.
Yeah. And so it's a weird element of... There's a vulnerability, I think, that comes with that age socially, which is why it's targeted there, because there's a relatability that's sort of that is felt to be part of the audience. You
Yeah.
know,
There could also be an element that a lot of the protagonists of horror are, if they aren't characters that age, they're played by women that age.
Yep.
And while I'm not saying that, you know, women only watch stuff with female leads, I do think that there is a certain relatability to the same places in life, similar experiences, and there is just a sort of, I don't know, there's a dread that women who are branching out of their family's bubble feel when they experience the world for the first time. You get your first catcall or what have you.
Your
We're
first
not victims,
awkward,
but
like,
there
walk
is a
to your
bit
car.
more fear when you walk alone at night and you realize, something could happen. I could just become another face on a wall, missing person, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a sort of there's definitely a vulnerability at that age of realizing you're no longer really under your parents' protection. You know, it's you're sort of out in the world and realizing that, and I feel like the 25 to 30 age group is also the age where you're sort of starting to realize from a female perspective, starting to realize that there's a lot that's not working the way you thought it did in your favor. That culturally, you know, women, you know, more recent, you know, it's been much more recently in history that women have gained rights that, you know, we grew up having. But sort of, I feel like it's in that age you start to realize that it's like there's still a lot about culture that stems from historically women not having the same power socially as men. And I feel like once you hit the 20s and you're sort of out in the world, I feel like for a lot of us, that's kind of the gradual experience. This is not to say that it's across the board, but there's definitely a level of experience where you're sort of being like, oh, like I feel like that was a lot of me kind of discovering my own.
For me, I didn't feel that so much as I felt that the ultimate lie of college degree as you get into career free, cheap, not cheap.
Shit. Oh yeah, no, that's the other. That's
You're
the
getting
one
a
I
career
squash away.
ticket. Yeah.
That's the one I squash way down and try not to think about.
Yeah, that was the existential dread I was facing at 25. For me, what's always drawn me to horror movies, because as I said, I've been into horror since high school, so well before I left my parents' bubble. For me, it has always been the cloying anxiety I feel about everything. My overactive imagination that comes up with wild scenarios of wonky stuff that could happen, and me wondering, what would I do if I was in that situation? And so then I watch I watch horror movies where wild, zany things do happen, and I'm like, all right, what would I have done differently, or what could I have done that might have led to not what happened to that person, because obviously I don't want that. And so
You're trying to problem solve in advance of, okay, what sort of learn by watching of. It's funny because I feel like I did the same thing, but because I also, like, my parents very much also sheltered me from that stuff, like from horror, because that was something they weren't interested in, really. Though my mom has, like, a little bit of a horror streak in her, but it's still very, like, she's like, I don't care for this because it's ick and ick. Like, she's more the campy horror, as long as it doesn't get too dark and ick. But otherwise, that. For me, I went in the realm of fantasy, so escapism. But I remember doing the same thing, so it's also an interesting of, like, similar mindsets, but, like, our exposure was kind of different.
yeah. Well, like, my folks weren't horror people either, and they certainly didn't encourage my horror liking, but I was too tech savvy and hiding away in my room with a computer and unfettered access to the internet for them to stop me, so.
And I was third child, with the consequence of basically 4 nearly adults or adults in the house, so it was kind of like, okay, I know that's not going to work. Although there was some getting away with, you know, this. But my mom now has since, when I've told her about, like, you know, as a kid of, oh yeah, I used to flip channels when you guys weren't looking downstairs if I was watching TV. And that's how I ended up watching a bit of this one movie that, like, imprinted itself on my brain, that he found what it was years later. And I told my mom when we released that episode, because I was like, by the way, Mom, yes, I have. My mom goes, oh, I kind of figured that happened, but this is my mom showing her a moment where she can just, like, this is the part of my mom where her little bit of horror self shows, I feel like, because she goes, yeah, well, I just figured if you guys did that and were sneaking around behind our backs, then what you reaped was your own consequences.
Oh my, if it isn't the consequences of our own actions.
Yeah, my mother's like, yeah, these were the rules. And just hearing my mother, you know, decades later be like, yeah, those were the rules. And I figured if you guys snuck around them and we didn't know it, well, you reap what you sowed.
Your trauma was your punishment.
Hearing my mother say that, it's like, now I know where I get some of my...
Just that slight streak of sadism.
Yes, it's exactly. For her, it's
or at the very
subtle.
least, Schadenfreude.
Exactly. It's like I said, she's I feel like is a little more horror oriented, but not like extreme. But like, hey, I got her to watch the OG Halloween. I mean, she
Okay.
thought it was kind of silly and a little
It is.
ridiculous, but you know, she doesn't
classic.
have the love for it that I have, but she sat through the whole movie. So,
Yep. I think every child has that one movie that they saw a piece of too young that has imprinted in their brain forever. For me, it was It, the 1990 miniseries. That one bit where his head's coming through the shower drain. I happened to walk in while my folks were watching that, and what is that? And they're like, switch channel, push all the buttons. Suddenly we're on a different input, but what are you doing out of your room, Rachel?
oh, I have to ask Dave, what was that for you? Was there one for you? That was that? Because I feel like that I agree, Rachel. That's universal to everybody.
I saw I forget what my father and I were doing, but we were like visiting a friend of his, I think, and they had on one of the Friday the 13th. I forget which one it is. I think it was one of the Kane Hodders, where Jason was in the sewer system. This was like at the end of it, and he didn't have his mask on, and they had a flood happen through the sewer, which caught Jason and drowned him, basically.
This
That
Jason Takes
stuck with me.
Manhattan? Is that the one? Maybe?
I want to say yes, but I'm
been
not
so
sure.
many.
But I do remember that quite well.
Okay.
Because the only other thing that really stuck out to me, well, there were two others. There was the Child's Play trailer, right? Because I had
Okay.
my buddy doll. I've been over this before on the podcast. And the other one was Arachnophobia with oh shoot, what's his name?
John Goodman?
No, not John Goodman, but John Goodman was in there. Jeff Daniels, that's it. Jeff Daniels.
That's it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Jeff Daniels as the main character. And it got me because at the time I was really scared of spiders. And one of the evil spiders, like at the end especially, was like a spider that was about the size of like a soccer ball, that was trying to get Jeff Daniels. Yeah,
So-
it's a
I feel
it's
like
a
that's
weird
not entirely
movie.
unrealistic, though.
Yeah, see,
'cause,
that's
like,
the worst thing about arachnophobia. It's not giant spiders. You can hand wave away giant spiders. No, it's
Yeah.
spiders. And
big
maybe
spiders.
big spiders. And yeah, no. That one still
Yeah.
skews me out, Dave.
I was gonna say
And-
that I don't even want to touch that. I still remember being at the barn like 10 years ago, maybe not even, maybe like 10 years ago with a teammate, and we were gonna have an afternoon practice, and we get there, and I hear like a Liz, and I walk over, and there's this like, it's like, like this big spider in the middle of our tack room, just on the floor, standing there, big old black spider. And my other teammate and I are sitting there staring at it. This is like, nope, I'm not going towards it. I'm not going towards it. And then, because everybody has the one teammate, and I feel like at Barnes, there's always the one horse person who just doesn't give a shit, because our teammate just walks by, looks down and is like, really, you guys? And she just keeps going. While the other one and I are like, we ain't crossing that path.
Well, the funny thing is that when I watched it again as an adult and I started reflecting on it, I'm like, this movie is boring except for the John Goodman parts, which makes me go, this should have been a movie about John Goodman's character, the Exterminator, and it would have been really, really fun. But otherwise,
You're
yeah,
right.
it's not a great movie because it's kind of boring.
I'm not gonna add that one to my list. Just again, I've realized that giant bugs, even normal giant bugs, not inhumanly giant. We're not talking like Shelob giant. I'm talking like it's just, you know, the
this
centipede.
would be the side that you would see in the tropics.
Yeah, like the giant centipede. Indiana Jones big, honestly. Like, I think of like that, what was it, Temple of Doom, when she's got the bugs on her, and I'm just like, nope. Let's not go there.
It's tickling the border of reality, and then it becomes a nope for me.
A little too close to home there.
Yes.
Back when the oxygen, nitrogen levels were different sized insects.
There you go.
Yes.
Though the Hawaii-sized insects, solidly my worst experience with any sort of bugs happened in Hawaii, but the worst with a spider was we had one that it looked freakishly big even for Hawaii, but it was about this big at our front doorstep.
Nope.
And my brother, being the man of the house at the time, because my dad was at work, decided to squish it. And he realized why it seemed slightly bigger than usual. It was because it was a mommy spider with a whole sack of eggs on her back, and when he squashed it, a billion baby spiders just scattered in all directions, and my brother stopped being the man of the house very quickly when that happened. He jumped about 5 feet up in the air, squawked, and ran away, and Mom had to clean that, and she didn't want to, but
I would
somebody
have
had
just been
to.
like, nope, I'm out. Like, you know, every meme where the person is like, nope, pack the bag, leave the door, light it on fire. Done.
Yep.
The spider owns the house now.
It can have it.
Yeah.
Oh,
We also had the
always
giant
carry-
centipedes there, too.
Always carry an aerosol can and a lighter.
Nuke it from orbit. Nuke it from orbit.
It's the only way you
Space laser it.
Sorry,
I think
Josh.
they ended up doing that to that house after we left, too. Because it was military housing and it was termite infested. There
I
was a lot
remember
of
you
bad
telling me
bug
stories.
experiences in Hawaii.
Hawaii has some big ass bugs. Let's be real.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, it's those tropical environments, rainforests.
Yep.
They're very vibrant ecosystems, and I know that within those ecosystems, those bugs serve a good purpose. But please stay
Stay out of my house. The best, though, was going riding on my bike in the evening through the neighborhood and coming across the cul-de-sac and seeing a Jets versus Sharks showdown happening between the giant centipedes and the toads of the neighborhood. Like, the toads were coming from one side, the giant centipedes from the other, and I could almost hear them
West Side Story
approaching
style.
each other. Yep.
Da-da-da-da-da.
I ran over a centipede to give the toads a leg up, you know. I was rooting for them.
Very nice.
I love it. Well, you know, ant colonies can actually have turf wars, like,
Oh, yeah.
straight up. Like, there was some huge turf war, like, years ago that was, like, actually documented between, like, these two major ant colonies.
See, this is what we need in Hollywood right now. We need a movie that is, it takes the parallels of gangster fighting, various gangsters, Italian, whatever, and incorporates them as different ants.
There you go.
And then here we go. We see what happens.
All right, so the bullet ants would be... What would they be?
I don't know what family they would be.
Because they are just the nastiest,
They're pretty
painfulest.
bad. Not to further diverge from the topic, but
But hey, but remember, ants are colony creatures run by a queen.
They're matriarchal.
So we are never that far off because inevitably it's a matriarchal society. So,
very true.
you know,
Um,
where's our? Well, we just get another like alien. You know,
There you
Ripley
go.
fighting the queen.
Everybody's
Yeah.
favorite scream queen and the biggest villain in horror history, Ellen Ripley.
That is the funny thing, though, thinking about it as we were coming to this episode, is how female-drenched horror is, particularly on heroes. Like, a lot of times, a lot of like the really iconic horror films, it's the woman walking away. And I realized
Yeah.
I'm like, it's funny because to me, there's a sort of part of me that I'm like, there's a level of like women empowerment that actually exists within
Sure.
horror in its own right.
Yeah.
And
To the point
I
where it's
love
got a
it.
name, the final girl.
Exactly. Well, Jamie Lee Curtis,
You got your
Our-
Scream Queens, but then you've got
Neve
your
Campbell.
Ripleys. And,
thank you.
Yeah. And the Ripleys in particular have been making a comeback. Like, I think of Jamie Lee Curtis in the original Halloween and then Jamie Lee Curtis in the new Halloween, how far that character has come.
Yeah.
She's no longer a villain, or not a villain, no longer a victim. She's not a monster like a lot of female in horror is too. She is the hero.
Yeah, one and in that one especially, and what I love about that, the 2018, the David Gordon Green one, was that the exploration of her trauma. That she's not just blanketly, she's the badass hero, but that it still explores it from a whole human standpoint of that she's very broken too.
She is a human who has responded there's a post-traumatic growth, but there is still the trauma.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, do her skills come in handy? Yes, but we also see that as a result of her trauma and kind of the responses to it, she has also made poor life decisions.
Yeah.
like-
Particularly
And created
where
a-
her family is concerned. Sorry, Dave, go on.
Oh, sorry. And created an H.H. Holmes-esque house.
Yes.
Oh,
And then you
I
get
love
kind
it.
of takes on that in other horror franchises too. With I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre tried to have a similar thing. Even the newest Final Destination had a little hint of that towards the beginning, with an old lady who's been fighting death for eons.
Yeah, Texas
Man.
Chainsaw did it, and they even brought back, I can't remember her name from the original
Sally.
one.
There's
Sally.
the character, but not the actress, right?
No,
Actually,
that was
I think
the
it was
actor.
the Netflix one
Yeah.
brought
It
the
was?
actress back because it was
Okay.
it was sort of following the same steps as like the
As
2018
Halloween,
Halloween
yeah.
had done. I'm going to say it right off the bat because that Texas Chainsaw also had, like the two sisters kind of as like the main characters. That Halloween was so bad. Like
I mean, the Texas Chainsaw was so bad, or Halloween.
or that Texas Chainsaw. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I'm mixing
okay.
it all up. That Texas Chainsaw was just. It felt like that. I'm going to be blunt right here. I felt like it was kind of trying to knock off ideas because even bringing back Sally, she didn't feel. It felt like okay, but there's nothing. Sally's just back as tough girl now.
Yeah, and it
Like
didn't
what?
make sense for Sally. For Laurie, it made sense because she'd been through the ringer, but she had come out relatively intact.
Yeah,
Sally in Texas Chainsaw Massacre was 100% broken at the end of that. Like, she had gone insane. And
that
so
whole
having her
screen was
come back,
unhinged.
yeah, and so having her come back as a tough girl, it didn't make sense. Like, there are levels, I don't know.
Well,
I
there was
would
no
need it
flaw
to be
her.
explained better. Yeah.
Yeah, there was no time. They spent more time dwelling on these two supposed to be Gen Z characters who, honestly, I want to say this is doing a disservice to a whole other generation because it just made them all seem dumb, idiotic,
But
honestly,
in fairness,
on every level.
they did it to us millennials too. So
They
I think
did.
the old fogies have been doing it to the young generation since the beginning of time. So
movie just was
Yeah.
one of those ones where I'm just like, frankly, everybody's hateable.
Well, like my experience as far as like what I've seen from Hollywood has been like they're old as dirt and they have a certain thing that they think is more valuable, which is oftentimes tied to like when they grew up. Which is why a lot of things that are set, say, in like the 1930s, as far as like a setting for a film, tend to win Oscars a lot more readily because
Yeah.
that was when those people grew up. That was their experience. They're like, I remember that. Whereas like they see like millennials and Gen Z and probably Gen Alpha as like, y'all are young, you don't know what's going on. So
they
like
probably even
your
view
stuff
Gen
is silly.
X with that lens.
Yeah. I was going to say,
Yeah.
it's pretty much every younger generation. It's interesting, though, you bring that up, because it's also, I think it's why we're seeing, I think it's also part of why, historically, there was probably, like, some general targeting of, like, 25-year-old women in horror, but also why when you start looking at like the newest stuff coming out of horror, it's a little more nuanced, and you're starting to see explorations where the characters are older. Where you're getting, we're starting to see different perspectives, even with things like Scream, where, Neve Campbell's coming back, has come back as Sydney in older and older iterations, where we're starting to see a little bit more of a branching away from that one type to the sort of expansion of it being beyond just this one age group.
Yeah, although in case of Scream, well, I haven't seen the most recent one. I saw the one before that, and they had a 20-something woman as the lead, but they still had Sydney there. Yeah.
Yeah, what they did, I think, kind of like Halloween, they did a decent job at is, while she maybe wasn't they still kept her central without having it take over it. So they were able to balance kind of an older and a younger generation, so you had sort of these two sides of it.
And same with the newest Final Destination. They kept that balance pretty well.
Yeah. That's a tough tightrope to walk.
Didn't that the character in Final Destination, the old one, wasn't she one of the ones in the original where she was originally locked away?
She was not. No. So all the characters from the original were killed off earlier in the franchise. Sorry, spoiler alert, but it has been 20 years. But
That's fair.
No, she is from the without getting too spoilery, the trailer tells you this. The disaster at the beginning of the newest Final Destination happened decades ago. But it was such a mass casualty incident that was avoided that Death has been working through a gajillion people, and then those families have managed to reproduce in the amount of time it took for a death to get to them, that now their bloodlines are also being targeted because they never should have existed. So, as she was the last person to die in the disaster, Death has finally caught up to her, but she's like an old lady now, and she has been looking for all of the possible ways she could die, so she's got that crazy old, badass lady thing going, and so and thus the story begins.
Yeah. Wasn't there too, this one kind of slipped under my radar until I saw the signs, didn't we just get like a 20 years later sequel to I Know What You Did
28
Last Summer?
Years, yep. Wait,
well, there's no, I Know What You Did Last Summer or something like that. That
was
one.
I Know What You Did Last Summer is getting a sequel.
Yeah.
It's a sequel, okay.
Yeah,
because
Jennifer Love Hewitt comes back as like an advisor to young kids or something like that.
Okay, so they're doing it with that one too then.
Yeah, and that's one that's totally slipped under my radar completely, is just kind of forgetting
and the funny
it's even
thing
there.
that I've been thinking about with that is they're targeting us millennials with that, because they're like, y'all are old enough, we can go and get nostalgia cash.
Yep.
They are.
A decade ago they were hitting up Gen X with the 80s nostalgia. Now they're hitting us up with the 90s nostalgia. Soon it'll be the knots nostalgia. Still for us, but
Yep.
Yeah.
And hey, 28 years later, as we know.
And then Gen Z won't get anything because all they've had is assaults of nostalgia from older generations.
It goes
it'll just be even more retro 80s for Gen Z.
Oh, hey, Gen Z will become the new Gen X. They'll be the ones who are forgotten because it's just going to skip over to things like Skibidi Toilet. And Gen Alpha.
Gosh.
It's just going to be more unhinged.
Gen Z doesn't have anything to cling on to. Gen Alpha will have it all. So it's like, well, good job.
I have serious worries for Gen Alpha. I tell you this as the mother of one who I occasionally encounter these things out in the wild, and what is going on with them? I know what's going on with them. COVID. they went crazy in COVID lockdowns.
There's going to be an unhinged element.
My son is not touching YouTube for like at least 20 years, I swear. Or whatever,
I know,
TikTok, whatever it is that they're doing these days.
I was going to say, what was it? My nephew, who's, I think, close in age, I think, to your son. And I swear, like, he saw me, he and his sister aren't allowed to watch, really are kept sheltered from TV. they read a lot, which is good. They're good readers. My sisters follows them. They don't really have them let them watch TV at all.
Yeah.
Or much at all. So he sees me installing anything or playing any kind of game on my computer or installing any kind of game, and he's just mesmerized. And he saw me and I was installing I was on Steam going through trying to figure out what to install so that I'd have some horror games to play in that limbo point where I was no longer living in my old apartment but was going to be moving back to California, so was going to be on limited internet. And he saw the Steam banner for Resident Evil 4, which is old OG Resident Evil 4. So it's Leon looking like a badass. And he's like,
Naturally.
What's that? I looked at him and I went, something that I'm not letting you look at until you're older because your mother will kill me.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So I'm like, nope. I guess I'm sitting there going, oh, child, no. Like, I was one time at a holiday, was like, I need a mental break from all the people here. I'm going to go here quietly in the corner and play Resident Evil on my PSP. And next thing I know, my nephew drifts up next to me, and I was like, I gotta go play something else. And I ended up playing, like, Bubble Bobble or something like that.
Oh my goodness.
It's the only thing I had, and meanwhile, everything else in my drive was, like, Silent Hill, Resident Evil.
Yeah, my younger son, who is a toddler, likes to pull stuff out of the DVD case or Blu-ray case and be like, "What's that?" He comes trotting up to me with my Saw collection box in his hand. "What's that?" Like, something you are not going to watch for a long time, my son. But when you do, I will be right there watching it with you.
How'd I know it was Saw that he pulled off the shelf, too?
I mean, it's low to the ground because it's an S. But also because I really love Saw. Like, I'm wearing a Saw shirt and everything. So,
So, Arion brand.
Of emotional trauma.
Yes.
Torture
but hey,
trauma,
at least it
even.
won't make you as paranoid as the Final Destination movies will. So, you're welcome.
That was a whole different level of paranoia. Saw at least had the element of, okay, but this is very fanciful. Somebody has to, like, create these crazy scenarios. Final Destination is the reason that millennials and Gen X never get, like, there were going to be people who going, why do we never drive behind the truck that has the pipes or the logs on it? And they're not going to understand
because
why.
I've
They just
seen what happens when you do.
Yeah, there's going to be a generation.
What's that?
Guess what I was caught behind on the road the other day?
A log truck?
Yup.
I swear, there's going to be like 20 years, 30, 40, 50 years from now, it's going to just be now culturally embedded that you just stay out from behind the log truck, and there will be people who have no idea why.
Mom, why do we do that? And their mom's like, I don't know, because your mother always did that.
Yeah, exactly. They're not going to know why. It's just going to be
generational trauma.
Some kid's going to come cover it and go, is this why?
You know what's funny? I forget who it was. It might have been Mythbusters, but they actually tested to see if that could happen with a log truck. And all the logs do is this, like, they just fall and roll. They barely bounce once, and then they just roll off to the side. So it's like, even in the worst case, that can't happen.
Yeah.
I was going to say,
but
I feel like it's
fun.
more realistic for like a steel pipes or something like that, but you need something that has more
bounce.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
logs could just fall and break.
Yeah, and that's not even taking into account how much they had to alter the physiology of the log truck in the first place to get that to work, because actual log trucks have these huge, like, bars along the sides to hold the thing up, whereas in the movie they're just holding it on with a flimsy little chain. Tink! Oh, there go the logs. Who could have seen that coming?
Yeah, all the OSHA people are sitting there going, nope.
I wonder what an OSHA board would have to say about that entire franchise.
Cue the Benny Hill music.
I just thought of a variant for that they could do in another one that would be probably just as absurd if you think about it too long, but also would be perfect. You know the wood chip trucks and how they never have an actual top on them, so they just go flying everywhere?
Oh, goodness.
What
mulch
if that,
trucks.
but now the mulch chips are fast enough they're breaking through the windshields.
Death from 1,000 paper cuts.
Yeah.
That could be gnarly.
That would be very fun.
It's like hundreds, if not thousands, of tiny wooden bullets. Just...
I mean, there's definitely a logic to them, like, pinning on those fears and remembering, like, a old acquaintance the other day, I think, had an instance where somebody had not tied something down well on their car and it flew off and it hit his windshield. I just was remembering that, because my parents live kind of in, you know, middle of the country, so like the main road near that by their neighborhood is basically a 70-mile-an-hour one lane each way highway. And my dad, a few years ago, I completely forgot about this because he was fine, like, which is why it sort of just brushes by your mind. But basically, this guy was hauling some stuff in his truck, and something came undone, and like I want to say it was like a 2x4 or something flew off the truck and actually went straight through my dad's windshield.
Jeez.
While he was driving behind him. My dad's fine. It was the other side of the car, like the passenger side.
If somebody had been in that side.
Yeah, it was one of those things that, like, after my mom told me about it, it happened. They got the car fixed. The guy, the guy actually managed to figure out, because I guess in the neighborhood, because it's even though it's country, everybody kind of knows each other in the general vicinity, and all was fine. But you know, afterwards, I was thinking about, it, I was like, that could have been really bad.
Yeah.
Like, really, really bad. Because my dad apparently had just left, was like barely 10 minutes away from the house, and calling my mom being like, well, I gotta go take the car over to the mechanic now. Can you come pick me up? Like,
yeah. Had something similar, but less accidental and more malicious in driving on the highway, and the hoodlums of Richmond, there was some kids throwing big rocks, off of the overpass, and one of them hit our sunroof on our minivan, broke right through, but we had the inside thing closed, so it bounced off of that and kept going, but if it hadn't, it could have easily hit one of my kids in the back seat. Ooh. And that's nightmare fuel right there.
Wow.
Yeah, rage fuel.
And nightmare fuel, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very glad that didn't happen.
Me too.
Yeah.
Man. So I'm very. To circle back around, we've thrown around some pretty important icons in the horror genre. Who's your favorite horror woman or horror women, if you would prefer?
That's a good question. Well, I do always have a big soft spot for Sidney Prescott, just because Scream was great. I'm
going to come right out and say probably, Laurie Strode. You know, there's something.
Solid.
I definitely would say Laurie Strode, especially the evolution of her when you get to like the 2018 film.
Sure, yeah. I don't know, Mrs. Bates is pretty classic.
Oh.
Dead or alive?
Dead. Her posthumous influence cannot be understated. But I'd also say Nell from The Haunting of Hill House was a fantastic character, and the fact that she was her own monster was tingle-inducing.
I was gonna say, I'm far enough. I'd only been in like episode 4, but I was getting hints that like there's something up with Nell. There is something up with her.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So apologies if I spoiled something there.
You're fine. You're fine.
Her story plot is just
and that
chef's
was
kiss
one
of
that
horror and dread.
It's the slow build. I love it. It's
slow
no
burn.
worries.
Good stuff.
Slow build. Yeah. Definitely
How about
Laurie
you,
for me
Dave?
on protagonist, but yeah.
I actually have a few.
Okay, I want to hear this.
First one, coming up in 2026, Regina King is coming back as everybody's favorite Brenda in a Scary Movie.
Oh my goodness.
You know what? I can totally get behind that.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's some
Brenda
solid
is a
choice.
god. second would be Vasquez from Aliens.
Oh, yeah. That's a
And
less popular one, but that's great.
yeah, she also got a. I don't know if it's a single book or if it's a trilogy. There's a Alien book that's like a trilogy of books that you can pick up, and one of them is titled Vasquez. So I don't know if it encompasses all three where she's part of it, or if it's just the one. But there is a Alien story that you can buy as a book that involves her in some fashion. And then the third one would be Jade from the Indian Lake trilogy. My Heart is a Chainsaw.
She's a good one.
And all those, right? Every one of those books in the trilogy, starting at the first one where she's 17, has a 4-year gap between them. So she grows and then she grows again, getting different perspectives, all while still dealing with things like personal trauma, trauma and influence based on her race, and all this other stuff. And where she uses horror to kind of cope with a lot of that. Very fascinating character. One that I think is a really cool deep dive into somebody like her. And she's phenomenal.
I still need to read that series, but I would say
you really do.
I do. I do. You brought it up a few times through our episodes too, so it's on my list. I will
Thank you,
actually add
Dave, for the Christmas present there. I did enjoy that book.
Yeah, you need to read the other two.
I do.
Yeah. I will say, you got me thinking, Dave, because, I mean, Laurie's kind of my go-to favorite, but I will also admit, like, expanding out of just film, although Rain in the first Resident Evil, the Paul W.S. Anderson, and actually Alice, Alice, there's a little bit of scattering continuity, but Mila Jovovich's a badass, and I do really like in the first. Yeah, but if you look at just the first two films, like, I enjoy her, but I also really like Rain. I mean, that's, Michelle Rodriguez did such a good job, and Rain and Alice in the very first film, honestly, was like an amazing, like, their chemistry together. As like these kind of two different approaches. You've got one woman who's like doesn't realize how entrenched she is in everything because her memory's not there, and then the other who is just definitely the girl in the boys club who holds her own by being basically just as brash. Also, Michelle Rodriguez, she's watching
just
that
great
woman
in that role.
She
like
is
that,
so
not
good.
just like that movie, but that archetype. She is perfect for it.
She's really good.
Does such a great job.
She complements Mila Jovovich in that film too really well, because there's definitely the one who's more comes off as more mild,
super hyper feminine Mila Jovovich as far as her aesthetic in that movie and everything, and then you've got Michelle Rodriguez, who is the boys club girl that's trying to be one of the guys, and it's
and the fact that the two of them bond. They end up sort of meeting in the middle as one kind of comes into her memory and the other starts to remember more who she is and kind of realize who she is. And then the other one who's becoming more vulnerable because she's been bit. And so there's this sort of switch in positions. Like that film, to be honest, was excellently done.
It was pretty solid.
Regard.
Yeah, it was pretty solid.
It really was. Yeah, that and, oh gosh, they just escaped me. I will say, of gaming, I am a softie for Jill Valentine, too. I'm going to be a Resident Evil moment for a moment here. I love all the women in Resident Evil.
Not Ada Wong, the one that you cosplayed?
That was years ago. I have a lot. I enjoy
Wait,
Ada.
You cosplayed as Ada?
I did.
Many years
I called
ago.
You out there.
Yeah, you definitely did. I cosplayed Ada. At the time, I will admit that my knowledge of the genre of Resident Evil wasn't quite as extensive, so Ada was kind of the first one, and I was still in fashion school, so it's the pretty dress one. Let me make that dress. Oh, dress is like falling apart now. I think I finally threw the dress out, even though I made it with like actual silk. I was like,
wow.
Whoa. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I found there was a good jersey silk mix. So it's like silk mixed with like nylon to get or
Okay.
like the way it's woven to get like a bit of stretch, which if I ever went back and remade it, I'd remade it. But I enjoy Ada. There are, and there's certain iterations that really expand on her, but I have to admit, I love Jill. There is something just, and I think it's more of Jill's. Ada is very well done for kind of that spy badass. You don't know anything about her, so you get hints. Femme fatale, but I love the way 6, if you play her campaign, really elaborates, and even though it doesn't really explain anything, I feel like that actually gave her a lot more nuance than what most people know her as, because you get her side of everything going on and what she's laced in with and this, and it actually leads to some of my theories about Ada as like a person, sort of like who she is, and like people speculate of, oh, Ada and Leon, and I'm like, no, actually, I think she's more Ace, actually. She just doesn't care, but she knows what she's got and she uses it. But
and, like,
Jill
who wouldn't use it on Leon? Am I right, girls? Am I
exactly.
right?
Well, like, I think she's got a bond with him, but
Yeah.
it's not as romantic as people play it up to be. And I'm like, I don't think
agree.
it is with her. I think it's just a bond. But that all aside, I love Jill. I enjoy Jill. It's another girl in the boys' club, but where
But
like
she's
Rain,
still pretty feminine about it.
She is. And honestly, when you look at like other characters, like how man's man all the other like, Chris and all these others are, it's like she holds her own.
You got Mr. Meat, the King of Meat, with the meat on the side. Chris
with
Redfield.
the side of with his love of the boulders.
Mr. Meat Neck.
You've got
Just
weird
as the
surly...
games keep going, his head and neck ratio continues to get more skewed.
You've got Barry of the surly dad jokes, who, by the way, shout out though to the character of Moira, even though you only get her in one game. Moira is just somebody knew what they were doing when they wrote Moira.
Moira.
When
Which game was she?
Revelations 2.
I haven't.
She ends up joining. The intro to Moira is actually Barry's kid. But when you meet her, she's, young adult, joins Terra Save, kind of despite her dad, because she basically hates Barry and says it outright. There's a whole unraveling of that. But her personality from the get-go is, here we're at a professional group dinner, and she shows up looking like this little, like, goth punk. And then we'll sit there, and there's a point in the game that I feel like sums her up as a whole, where she goes, do you get caught in this dickwad shit bullshit too? Like, foul-mouthed whatever. And then Claire looks at her and goes, that's our boss Neil you just said that to. And that's Moira, the no sense of decorum around anybody.
I've needed to play Revelations 2 for a while now, and you're selling me on it even more than I already was. And
Rev 2 is not perfect. I'm going to say Rev 1 and Rev 2 both had some misses in it. But I will say that their hits, that where they hit in certain places, they hit well. Moira was a good dimension to bring in, and some of the ones. Jessica, I want to punch in the face. And then kick in the chest.
Interesting. Talking about ladies in video game horror, I keep trying to think of examples of female protagonists in video games, and all I'm coming up with is like Resident Evil and maybe the Alien Isolation game. Most of the time, it's male protagonists in video games.
I was thinking about that too, and it's reversed in film.
Fatal
Oh,
Frame.
that's right. Fatal Frame. That was one, yeah.
I'm trying to think of others as well. It's
Perception was female.
Perception. Yes.
Yeah.
Until Dawn had some females and some male. It was about half and half.
Yeah. Until Dawn kind of just hopped around, so there was no real, like, protagonist. I mean, the closest would be, like, the one lady.
Chairs carry a character. Yeah. She was the one that had the most plot armor. Like, it was hardest to kill her.
Arguably, without knowing a lot, Last of Us could probably semi more in the second game, and that's my knowledge based off the second season of the show, but just
I'd say it definitely counts.
So I caveat that.
Yeah, in the second game, I think your main character is Ellie.
Ellie?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of my basis off that, is that people who have played the game being like, oh, the second season's following the game closely. Okay. But yeah, you know, it's a little bit more split, but that's also because it's a very narratively driven game.
There is another character in Last of Us 2 you play as, both playable
Abby.
Characters, and yes, I didn't know if anyone
The
knew.
character that people hate.
You play both of them, so I'd say it definitely counts.
Yeah.
Can I add?
Yeah, I can't think of too many
So there are
others.
some, but it is the exception and not so much the rule. Whereas in movies, usually it's a female lead, and the male lead would be the exception, not the rule. So it's an interesting flip flop there.
Yeah, I wonder if it comes down to, like, I could almost guarantee that there's somebody somewhere who would say, well, the target market with a lot of games has been of the male variety. Traditional.
That said, as a female gamer, I do prefer to look at the male sprites, because if I have to stare at someone's butt all day, it might as well be a hot male butt. There, I said it.
I also will admit that there is a certain level of not liking how women have historically been portrayed in games that makes me hesitant. I was hesitant even when
Jill
Resident
Valentine
Evil with the women.
In RE5.
Yeah. Yeah, oh my gosh, that was such a controversy when it came out. There was so much split. You know, and it's funny, I'm going to be honest, it doesn't even bother me that much. I'm like, honestly, Jill's whole thing doesn't... They really complained about Jill's look, and I'm like, that doesn't throw me as much. It's Excella who is this, but the more I've played Resident Evil, the more I've found that their female approaches don't all, like, some of them are really annoying. Excella, Gion is one. She bothers
Jessica.
You know, Jessica I really am bothered by. You know, but I mean, and it's like, you really just want to. Excella, it's like the typical, we're going to make her a woman and we're going to so oversex her to make it. It's more that they're being so overtly obvious about the fact that she's just constantly just being horn dog around Wesker. Too. I mean, she walks around with, like,
everything
ribbons.
On display.
Yeah, she walks around wearing ribbons over her tits and then goes over to Wesker and is like, you know, like, honestly, in a different generation of gaming... Well, in, like, a different generation of gaming, like, she's, like, all hands all over him. I'm like, man, these are different... If this was a different era, they'd just have her straight up put her hand on his crotch, because that's pretty much what she's doing. You know, she doesn't, but it's the way they're portraying her, there's, like... Yeah, she just wants to bone.
As the modern phrase goes, she walked boobily into the room.
Yes.
She breasted boobily down the stairs.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's definitely... Resident Evil's definitely been one of the ones to come under criticism also just for the typical... And Rachel, this is taking us back to our video game theater days of the stereotypical, if you put a woman in a game, dress her minimally.
Yes, the less coverage sexy. The armor has, the higher the armor rating.
Yes. Still can't believe I had to wear that part.
Now I'm just picturing Time Lady from the second reboot trilogy, or the second game in the reboot trilogy of Prince of Persia. If any of y'all remember that from back when.
I never played Prince of Persia, but
Never
it does get me
either.
thinking on just the element of women in games. And you see it in horror just as much. They're either very monstrous or very feminine a lot of times.
Yeah.
As I said I would bring this up. Brood mother.
The brood mother! She of the Legion boobs.
Many tits.
When I hear that, the first thing that I think of is Alien Resurrection with the queen in that one.
And that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even look at, like, Evil Within 1 and 2. You've got these Laura, you know, these very monstrous, and in their monster forms, kind of sexualized women. But not.
I did not find Laura sexualized at all.
Well, not. I
Me.
don't mean that in like a way that they play her to be sexy, but there's an element of they're more exposed. Like, you only see Laura, like, you're seeing more Laura may be all limb spider lady this, but she ain't clothed either. You know, and so it's a sort of more like the monstrosity of it. Well, come beast, Dave. Again,
I never took Laura as sexual in any way.
Well,
not
no, and
not
I'm
even
not-
how.
She seemed more like a product of trauma.
Well, no, and let me clarify, because I'm not saying that they're sexualizing them, but it is an interesting element to me that as monsters they declothe them, that there is no sense of design covering.
So there's an interesting thing. Just to quickly talk about Laura for a second, and then I'll get to that. And this is probably the writing that kind of throws me on Evil Within. I know we talked about this in our episode. I had always, until our episode, took Laura and Ruvik's relationship not as brother and sister, but as like kind of lovers of some kind. And I think, as I've been thinking on that after our episode, I thought that it could be just a case of the writing where
Yeah.
that comes off.
Yeah.
But to go to clothing and horror, so there's a really fascinating role-playing game called Fear and Hunger. And in Fear and Hunger, the characters that you play are clothed, but a lot of the monsters, if not all of them, are completely nude.
Yeah.
And it's not played for sexualization. It's played for they are monsters and do not have, I don't want to say shame. They don't have the civility of being clothed. And like, that's part of the point.
Yeah, no, and I get that. That to me it's a very interesting line of monsters, you know, don't care about clothing. And I'm not one of those like, oh, cover up all the titties, whatever. What's interesting to me though is what I do see frequently in horror is that if there is a female coded monster, it is way more obvious, you know, in the way that they, you know, and not just, oh, they've got boobs in this. I mean, you know, there tends
Got
to
the
be a
hourglass
much more
figure and
the boobs, or that the shirt is like mostly coming off if it's supposed to be like a zombie or something. There is kind of a more exposed form to it, where a more deliberate attempt to still suggest femininity within them without necessarily being sexualized, but still more deliberately feminine. I mean, look at like all the I'm trying to think, like Ruvik, like in the final form when it's like a brain creature thing, whatever.
yeah,
So
they're not often. I won't say never. It is not often allowed to become as inhumanly monstrous as male characters are.
yeah,
You
it's
still
they're
have
often
to see that they're feminine.
yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like one of the least feminine was
The alien
Rev
Queen?
2. Yeah, well, that won that, and even though it's been a long time since I've watched any of Alien, and I never finished Isolation, but I'm trying to remember. I think Rev 2, the final boss, is less Revelations, Resident Evil Revelations. Sorry, it's just easier than saying Resident Evil Revelations 2.
Okay, sorry.
It's at the end. Yeah, I think she's less overtly. I'm trying to remember. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I think it's because they kind of take her and make her like monstrous mannequin doll.
Yeah.
Something. I'm trying to remember. It's been, I don't know why. That's where they sometimes missed on some of their coding. But yeah, it's just interesting to me that there's kind of a direct femininity. If it's a monster derived from a female, it's often a little more obvious that they're feminine.
The one that I think of, and I'm specifically thinking of a scene that's just absolutely gross. In Barbarian, have any of you seen Barbarian?
I've heard enough about it, but I've not seen it.
Okay. So in Barbarian, there's a scene where the monster person who's running around in the basement area has Macintosh nerd and the protagonist trapped in this room, and she brings down like a giant bottle that's full of her milk to him, and the protagonist is like, drink, like you have to, or else it's going to be bad for us. And he's like, I don't want to. Like, I think about that, and I'm like, I don't think I could do that because it's really gross. But this discussion brought that particular scene in mind, and it's interesting in the sense of like, not just that, but Barbarian has a lot of exploration of women, of sex, of exploitation, and stuff like that in it, and seeing things such as like a woman who never really got to like grow in a regular household, who thinks that her ultimate like need is to have a child that she takes care of, to the point where she abducts people and who get in this house and like forces them to be her child and stuff occurs. It's really wild. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely gets you thinking of like feminine roles, and thematically you got me thinking of how like another common theme we see with horror with women is also motherhood
Yes, I was
and
just
reproduction. Yeah. Yeah. I'm
With
curious, Rachel, your
Alien
perspective
and
too. Of you've
Psycho.
been in. I'm kind of curious your thoughts on it too, Rachel, because you've been in horror a lot longer than like I have, because you were there for me, sort of wading into the vast ocean of horror, but also your perspectives as a mother.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, motherhood has a profound effect on, and a profound impact on people, and it can be for the good or for the bad. A thing that comes to mind most readily is, well, Stephen King adaptations, or his books themselves. His parents often have, not his parents, his characters often have parental issues, often with the mother in particular. You'll have the cloying, like, either overprotective or verbally abusive or what have you, but it's just, motherhood is, it can be a very good force, but it can also be a very, very powerful force for horror because of the profound capacity for trauma that motherhood can invoke. Plus, it's literally the power of creation. It's a very strong, powerful role that mothers have, and by the same token, horror likes to deal in mirror images. It likes to deal in reflections. So the reflection, the horror reflection of creation is destruction. So you put that juxtaposition together with mothers.
Chaos
It's a pretty
ensues.
potent, yeah, it's a pretty potent mental hook, for lack of a better term.
So yeah, it's something definitely I've seen a lot. American Horror Story, I will say that show loves to thematically use motherhood. It's almost too much at this point where it's like, can we get over the motherhood?
Yeah, I've
themes?
only watched the first 2 seasons, and I'll freely admit, like, before I was a mother, I was fine with like whatever. Since becoming a mother, I can no longer handle childhood violence and violence against babies, and that includes unborn babies. And so, like, the first 2 seasons, like, they just keep coming back to abortions or you know, I think in the first season they kidnapped their baby who was adorable, and then like cut him up and then sent him back to the, like, in the not the modern day family, but one of the older families that had lived in that house. And it's like,
ew. Yeah, that season especially really leaned on the mother thing, and it was just like, they did better in other seasons with more by avoiding it, but honestly I'm like, that's probably, they did a little bit better in some of the other seasons with it, but I also feel like it's
horrific. So
yeah, and it's it's one of those themes that I'm like, there are lots of examples of it being maybe too much in how it's done, and having a more nuanced portrayal. Like, I'll come back to 2018 Halloween, because that without going deeply into like exploring it on Michael's side, kind of explores an elements of motherhood and everything, because you have the running theme of you have 3 generations of women in the same family. You have Lori, you have her daughter, and then you have her granddaughter. And each one, there's elements of their personality that are informed by their prior experience, all stemming from the origination, which is Lori's trauma. And kind of, looking at generational trauma, but also how that influenced them as mothers and daughters.
And here, as a big hardcore Final Destination fan, I will also say that's explored in the new one too. So yeah,
there you go. So
there you go.
Yeah, that's the element I think that I've liked seeing. Even if some of the nostalgia thing is just a trick to get money, it has been nice when it's done well. It brings in new themes and elements that are kind of, I feel like, a natural progression in exploration.
I got a question for you
to
two.
throw mine in there.
Sure.
Especially Rachel and Liz, especially at the intersection of female protagonists, depiction of how is femininity interpreted as, like, when monsters come into play, how is that interpreted through, like, the female form, and also elements of motherhood, anxieties around motherhood, societal expectations of motherhood, both either the potential mother themselves or the what society expects of them. Have either of you played Silent Hill 3?
No.
Like, so that
Silent Hill's been the elusive game franchise because it manages to not be on any system I either have or have the ability to emulate right now.
So
I have it. I just haven't played it.
Okay, how much are you good with me saying without, like, necessarily getting into spoilers, then?
It's an old game, so at this point it's our own fault, so go for it.
So, the basic gist for Silent Hill 3 is, like, you play as Heather. She is a young woman, she's teenager, think about, like, 17 or so, just living her life normally, but she's having these weird flashes of nightmares where she's traipsing through Silent Hill type areas. And as you progress through, she's suddenly thrust into that in her waking life as well, where she is then confronted by this older woman who tells her, like, point blank, you are to be the mother of God. And so
no pressure.
Yeah. and this is a very eldritch, arcane cult god, not happy fun times god. And so the gist of the game is, like, well, first Heather's trying to get home because, like, when all this goes down, she's, like, away from home at a mall in the next town over. So she's trying to get home. When she finally does, her life, I won't spoil how, is completely destroyed and upending. There is no going back. They have made, like, every force involved in this has conspired to make sure there is no going back for her on this. And so, eventually, like, has to figure out, how do I avoid this fate of basically being, like, the broodmare to a dark god? And there's ties.
I feel like a hysterectomy is a good option there.
I was going to say, that's a good plan.
Yeah. And so, like, as you get near the end of the game, you find out that Heather is actually, like, if you've played the original Silent Hill, in the good ending, even though Cheryl, Harry's daughter, dies, she is reborn as a new infant. Or she is reborn as an infant again. Because that's the second time it happened to her, because she was originally Alessa, the daughter of one of the leaders of the Silent Hill cult. And so you find out Heather is Alessa, who was originally, like, an incarnation of this god, and that the woman who has been pushing this onto her was, like, Alessa's childhood best friend. And, like, Heather manages to avoid becoming like like the god is incubating within her. She takes something that makes her cough it up, but I think her name is Claudia. Is the older woman, and Claudia takes it, and I think takes it into herself so she can birth God. And it's like the way
I
it ties. Oh, go ahead.
cough it up.
Yes, you Heather coughs up a God fetus.
And then
Where was she keeping it?
Insider.
Not where you
Somewhere
usually,
safe.
her
not where you
esophagus.
usually keep a baby. Okay,
No,
all right.
no, not typically.
Continue
No,
on.
but
Yep.
we're dealing in dark magics here.
Okay. All right.
But so Claudia
I'm on board
takes
now.
it
All right.
within herself, and eventually completes. Like, it's not supposed to go this way. This is a very messed up version of an already messed up ritual. So it goes slightly wrong, but tying into like how do horror, especially horror that is created by teams that are primarily men. So you get that kind of like we talked about the aspect of like, or we touched on like the is it getting into sort of a fetishistic depiction of femininity or whatnot? But it's like, but when she gives birth to the god, it's Silent Hill, it's the final boss, it is monstrous, but it's like it is a warped amalgamation of what she or what she remembers of Alessa from when they were kids, but it's like as a malformed adult. So it's like a porcelain mask of Alessa's face, a kind of doll-like upper torso, and then because it's gone awry and isn't complete, like spine and pelvic bones. And the final confrontation there is Heather has to kill God, who is this and in tying into the themes even more, a god that is basically like this malformed, twisted parody of like her previous life 2 lives ago. And so I find that fascinating in the sense of like, instead of like just being like, how do we make monster but woman? It ties it more
Yeah.
deeply into the character. It ties, like, thematically, it's like, do you, like, you are literally having to kill this image of yourself someone has of you that you don't have of yourself. And that
Yeah.
is positioned within the narrative and the theme to basically be like the ideal of you and the you that you should have been, and so on and so forth.
And atop that is essentially an infant.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
in some cases of that sort of thing, your infant. So I notice this is a common theme. I don't have the familiarity with Silent Hill 3, but I've noticed this is a recurring theme of turning motherhood into something monstrous with Japanese media in general. I know the Grudge series liked to dabble with that. And even the Ring series, especially in the books, really dabbled with that because Sadako was, well, she was hermaphroditic. Hermaphroditic
Intersex.
intersex and she had functioning both elements of it, and they really kind of they liked to toy with that element and the ties between that and a virus. So her being able to reproduce with herself and spreading her curse essentially as a virus, and that the whole copy of the videotape was also an element of that, of just copying and reproducing and spreading. And so that there was also that horrific element of motherhood there. And so, yeah, I'm on the fence about how that feels. Sometimes it feels like it's thematically just going for the horror. Sometimes it feels a bit fetishistic. And so,
Could I give you a recommendation of a movie that I think does a good job with motherhood in horror?
sure.
Uma. with Sandra
Knew
Oh.
it.
Uma. I've not heard of this.
UMMA. I forget what streaming service it's on right now, but Sandra Oh plays a lady who lives like in the middle of nowhere, looks like Texas. She has a daughter, and her mother has passed away for a while, and it's about Sandra Oh's struggles both as a mother and as a daughter, and things that happened in her past with her mother and how she treats her daughter, and like the society around them to a lesser extent. It's
Okay.
it's a really fascinating film that does a really good job in exploring motherhood. I think you would like it quite a bit.
I'll have to check that one out.
Found it
Other
Hulu.
movies I can. Hulu. Good to know. Other movies that I can think of off the bat that don't necessarily turn mothers monstrous, but do explore elements of motherhood would be the Babadook. The Babadook. Let me enunciate that a bit better.
Yeah,
And
that's a
that
good one.
is that dives deep into mother's nightmare fuel of not being a good enough mother, not being able to raise your child right, and facing that occasion. Any mother has this moment where you're being overwhelmed by your child, and you come to face with the notion of, I don't love my child right now. Or if you lose your temper, you're afraid I might hurt my child. And so the Babadook takes that notion and just goes to the extreme with it. And then one that it was always scary to me, but it has become something I can no longer watch as a mother, is the Pet Cemetery, where
Oh,
you have to
yeah.
face down the tragic and horrible death of your child. And hey, holy cow, you've got this option to bring the child back.
Yeah.
But not
Sometimes
quite
dead
right.
is better.
Are you willing to do that? Are you so desperate to have your child back that you're willing to risk it?
Yeah. The acute look at loss.
Yes. And I don't know if any of y'all have read the book it's based on, but gosh, that I read that before I was a parent, and that trashed me. Now I will never read that book again because it will destroy me. Especially there's a bit in the book where Lewis has a dream that it didn't happen, and that his son grew up, and he got to see the sort of young man that Gage grew into, and then he wakes up and realizes that it's not true, and he's at his son's funeral, and it's a gut wrench. Now I know that a lot of that was written from the perspective of the father, but there is a bit of that from the mother too, and just as a mother watching that, it's horrific. And
Yeah. It's looking at motherhood kind of like those themes in motherhood from the lens of the father who maybe doesn't have the exact insight into knowing what's going on, but is watching it unfold.
Well, he's the one that's doing a lot of the acting in it because he's
Yeah.
the main character. But nonetheless, I mean, as a mother, there's a lot of overlap between the way a mother and a father feels about their child, and just the feeling of, I could have saved my child, I didn't, my child's dead. My future that I was looking forward to is not what it was supposed to be. I have the option to fix it, but it might make things worse.
Yeah.
And
And that's-
in particular, the main character, not the main character, the mother, the wife in Pet Cemetery, Rachel, she ends up dying because she just can't bring herself to see her undead son as the monster he's become. And, like, I wouldn't be able to either.
Yeah.
I would just want to hug him and hold him. I didn't
Yeah.
pay no attention to that scalpel in his hand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Let's not
Herman
look.
Munster had it right. Dead is better.
That is better. Yeah.
Yeah, that from that angle, definitely that would be tough to watch. That's like, I mean, I am not a mother, unless we include my dog, but I did not grow him or give birth to him. He is adopted.
You
He
did
is
not.
an
You did not feel him running marathons inside of you.
No, I do not have any of that experience. But even watching that, it's tough watching that. Even just even just with the perspective as
Yeah.
a woman watching
And like
that.
I said, like that was nightmare fuel for me even before I had kids. It was just the idea of a
Yeah.
loved one coming back wrong, and then having to face that dilemma of do I kill them and fix it, or do I suffer the consequences of not being able to let go?
Yeah.
And so,
kind of a heart versus mind too, of what
Yes.
what logic and your mind tells you should do, but what your heart tells you could never do.
and it's one of those, and I guess this goes back to why I like horror movies, is of what would I do in this situation? I don't enjoy Pet Sematary because I know what I would do in that situation, and it's exactly what the protagonists are doing in this situation, and it's what's going to make everything worse. And it's like, I don't want to be put into a situation where I have to have that decision and go so far against what I would want to do. And it's just, it's a gut-wrenching. I mean, it's so hokey, like it's very, very 80s movie, but it's just, it's high-octane nightmare fuel, especially as a parent.
I believe it. Yeah. I was gonna say, it's a theme I've seen that explored a little bit in, like, The Walking Dead has explored it in little bits. Again, kind of from the male lens, just with Rick, for the most part, being the central character, but even looking at the element of, yes, it's your child, but your child is a monster now. But then what's interesting to me is that the show also explores the elements of, occasionally, like, I'm thinking of Alexandria, and I'll try to say this about, because I don't want to spoil too much, but of what people can become without the societal constraints of typical behavior. So it also looks at children who are monsters, but they're not monsters because they're zombies. They're monsters because kind of the nature of their environment a little bit. It's explored a little bit with Carl, of the leaning towards the fact that Carl could potentially become that, and then the series later presents kind of a mirror to Carl of a kid who has gone that route.
Yeah.
And then again, the mother theme of the mother who sort of is not looking at the problems with her children. And as a result, it gets all of them killed.
Yeah.
It's, and you watch it and you go, but would you do any different in her place? Because they're her boys. They're her babies.
And that's why motherhood is such a rife territory for horror, is because you get a lot of these intense dilemmas because you love your kids so much, but what if they turn out to be a monster? You get that in The Omen, where the child is the Antichrist, and like, what do you do? Like, if I found out tomorrow that my oldest son is the Antichrist, I wouldn't be able to kill him. Even if I know, like, the whole world's going to end if he keeps going, I wouldn't be able to kill him, and I would probably fight to the death anyone who tried. And so you just can't not, because of that deep bond, and it's so very, like, I don't want to be that person who's like, it's so different from, it's very different from any other bond I've ever had with a person, and it's not something I was capable of feeling prior to having a kid, and it's just, ugh. So yes, motherhood-related stuff is really effective at jerking at the heartstrings and the emotional tension and all of that. So
yeah,
that's why it's so good in horror, so effective in horror.
I see. It's funny looking at horror, and like, we touched on a little bit on the fact that some of these sort of nostalgia sequels where they're bringing back the original protagonist, especially for the women, when it's the women being brought back, they are looking at those themes of motherhood, and it's kind of the natural evolution. Yeah, but also as the natural evolution of before, perhaps looking more at their sexuality.
Sure.
Versus now evolving it to now we look at them as mothers.
Especially in the lens of, like, classic horror, where the final girl always had to be the virgin, right?
Yes.
And so you've got the virgin maiden, and now you've got the if you want to go the Game of Thrones route, you've got the maid, you've got the mother, you've got the crone. So
yep. We saw what you were doing there, Martin.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, you've even got, gosh, you see that pretty much exactly in X.
Now,
So,
I'm not
I
familiar
mean,
with
if
X.
you kn-
What is that?
X came out in, what was it, like
Just
2020,
the letter?
2021?
22, it looks like.
22,
22.
23. I was going to say, they released X and Pearl, I believe, actually pretty much it bookended the year. And
Yeah.
then a year or two later, end of last year, we got Maxine. So it's Mia Goth. It's the premise of X, for you, Rachel, is they basically what ensues when some young adults in the 70s go to stay at the guest house on a very isolated rural farm because they're going to shoot a porno. Unbeknownst to the farmer who is renting the space to them, but doesn't realize they're shooting a porno, and what's unbeknownst to everybody else is that the farmer's wife, and by the way, these are old people.
Like 80s, 90s.
Yeah.
Old.
Yeah, very, very infirm, but the old woman is kind of insane. And then Pearl
And a
actually is
mass
her
murderer.
Yeah. And then Pearl is actually her story, so it bounces you back then to the 1900s, World War I, Spanish flu, actually,
Yep.
during that epidemic of she's a German living on that farm because that same farm is her family's farm. She is also German descent. Her mother is German. But they have there's no father, but the father becomes ill and basically becomes completely infirm. So now you've got the daughter acting as caretaker for the father, the mother kind of running the whole farm, but also trying to keep the daughter out of society because she knows that the daughter is basically a sociopath.
Interesting. That's another one I'll have to check
you know.
out. Sounds fascinating to me.
And-
yeah. Oh, I definitely encourage you to watch X, Pearl, and Maxine, because then Maxine kind of closes the loop of coming back to the main protagonist of X, but her years later now in Hollywood.
1983,
85.
84?
It's 85.
Yeah.
85.
Yeah,
Remember
they
the
slap
big,
it on the
giant
screen in
font.
big letters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they did
That one
that
looks.
in X as well. I noticed.
Oh, I forgot about that. But
Are we talking like Captain America Civil War style giant
Yes.
letters on the screen?
Yes.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, Pearl especially leans into that sort of bombastic, film era in terms of like the way the credits roll, the way they do the opening credits. They sort of lean into that tonally to kind of as a juxtaposition against the fact that you're basically watching the evolution of a sociopath. The more I've thought about it, the more I've looked at it, the more I'm like, Pearl has no sense of empathy.
The cinematography too, because when I went to edit that episode, going back and forth between clips from X and clips from Pearl, the screen ratio is completely different. So they're even shooting Pearl in that kind of like golden age 40s Hollywood cinema aspect ratio, which is fascinating to me. And I believe you can see all those right now on HBO Max if you want.
They are.
Okay.
They are all on Max. They are all on Max. So, yeah, definitely recommend them. And Mia Goth is an excellent performer. She plays, of course, she's the lead in all of them. She is also the old woman in prosthetics when she plays elderly Pearl.
Really? That's cool.
It's sort of a master class. I'm gonna geek out for a moment and say I've never seen her in anything else.
That name
But
is familiar.
she's done some other things, and she's in the new Frankenstein film. But she's masterful. Honestly,
Like,
there are a few scenes, especially in Pearl, that I swear I'm like, holy shit, you are a good actress.
Every time I think
That's
about
good.
Mia Goth, though, like, my brain automatically goes to the trailers for Infinity Pool. I have not seen that yet, but where, like, that laugh, that fucking, like, insane, giddy cackle, just bone-chilling.
Yeah.
She's really good.
Yeah, but definitely recommended. I would definitely recommend as looking at, because those films especially look at femininity and its role. I mean, especially when you consider that the very first film, it's, other than Pearl, the other women in these films are all helping shoot a porno in some aspect or another.
Yeah.
You know, so it's very... It looks at, like, women owning their femininity, owning their sexuality, empowerment, but also the responses to that. What it looks like when it's good, and also what, you know, through one particular character, what it looks like when it's actually not supportive. Like,
Yeah.
a character who seems supportive but is not.
Yeah.
It's like
So-
the cameraman, right?
Without spoiling too much. Yeah, without spoiling too much for it.
Yeah.
But also Gator Chomp.
Get
Oh, yeah.
a shot.
No
there's
context,
there's a
Gator
really,
chomp.
really fun gator.
Okay.
Gator!
Mr.
Gator
Goose.
Chomp.
Like Placid Betty White gator.
Well, another look at motherhood would be The Quiet Place. I've not seen the sequel or any of the follow-ups, but the first one.
I've seen the sequel.
Have you
I
seen
have.
the first one?
No, but I've seen the second one, which really follows her.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the first one covers that hard enough. You've got, with Pet Sematary, you've got the fear of failing to protect your child and what you do when that happens. Babadook, you've got the fear of what you might do to your child. And Quiet Place is a fear of what the world will do to your child. And so
Yeah.
you've also got this very, like, a lot of the conflict, not conflict, but a lot of the peril comes from the fact that, the female lead, Emily
Blunt.
oh my goodness, Emily Blunt's character is pregnant and is about to give birth. And it's like, in a world where you have to be absolutely quiet or risk getting eviscerated by a monster, why would you do that? And
Yeah.
it lends to a very real human need for human connection, and in a world where you're all separated from everyone, sometimes you have to make your own people to connect to, but also a very real need to procreate, and they very clearly love their children, even the one that was being a doofus at the very beginning of the movie, and just it's just part of trying to claim their humanity to make a child, but also at the same time, sound-based aliens.
Yeah, which...
Babies cry. Having babies is loud. So
That was the thing that I feel like that was The Walking Dead looking at, like, not as overtly in the sense that it wasn't sound-based, but yeah, the whole thing when Judith is still a baby, and even, like, the whole birth scene of, like, wait, Laurie's carrying a baby to term.
yeah.
Childbirth is not a quiet thing, and it happens... The episode in which she actually gives birth, to me, the tension with which you don't get to choose when the baby comes. When you take away all the medical technology, like induction, all this other stuff, inducing birth, all this other stuff, you don't get to choose when the baby's coming. And
sometimes the baby, and when I say sometimes, I mean usually, the baby chooses the worst time.
yeah, and when it chooses, and that whole scene, and the messiness, the fact that in their own way they touch on the fact that in this world, despite all the knowledge that these people possess because of modern medical technology, they no longer have the technology to support the safety that they've grown comfortable with in childbirth. So suddenly you get this raw scene of Laurie getting a C-section while zombies are on the other side of the door from a girl whose experiences with farm animals.
Yeah.
And probably not even doing that. Her dad was the vet.
Yeah.
And so the level of the risk of motherhood. And childbirth. And I think, Quiet Place and Walking Dead both look at that, that it's like, this isn't... They sort of go back and go, hey, folks, remember, modern technology in its own right is a miracle compared to what this process looks like, actually.
Even just 100 years ago, the process of giving birth was a very different prospect than it is now. And, I mean, even now there's always risks, but... that is looking in both cases. They're both looking at external and the physical element of giving birth. We'll just go out and say it: the horrific physical outcome and process that is giving birth.
Yeah. Well, and the critical elements, like with The Walking Dead, that, because Lori passes, but no one else is nursing, and you've got a newborn that needs to eat.
Yeah.
And also,
and formula is not exactly easy to come by in the apocalypse, so,
Yeah, and the whole thread of things that unfold because we need to feed the baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's...
And, fortunately in The Quiet Place, she didn't die in childbirth, but there was still the extreme risks that came with it, and, of course, the baby deciding to come at the worst possible time, because, well,
in the
Tension.
horror movies gotta develop conflict. That's just the way movies do.
Well, and then the second one looks at really, it's it's kind of all the elements of single parenthood. But this isn't a single parent with, like, just one kid or an adult kid. This is a single parent with multiple children.
In
with
vastly different age groups and different needs.
Yeah, different needs. And, one specifically who has a different way, has basically a physical need to communicate differently.
Yeah.
So even interacting with the rest of the world is not going to look the same. And so, it's bringing in the challenges of, like, The Walking Dead bypasses it by having the whole, they have it takes a village.
Yeah.
They sort of subvert that by having the extension of, that whole commune basically raises Judith. I mean, there's the whole arc where Rick actually thinks that Judith is gone, and you find out, no, it's because she's been with these other two people. Of a group that readily steps up to say, we will make sure the child is safe. But they kind of they skirt around that thematic element of single parenthood. By doing
Whereas in
that.
A Quiet Place, their family was extremely isolated, so when they lose the dad, then it all falls on the mom.
Yeah, so, now she is the sole caretaker in a world she doesn't trust anymore. You can't trust it
But
anymore.
you can't trust it, yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy, yeah.
There's another horror game that I want to bring up that has motherhood involved in it. And it's one of my all-time favorite games. Probably the one that I have the second most time in. The Binding of Isaac.
I knew it.
Yeah. That one, for the few people who may not know about it, is about a little boy whose father leaves. He abandons the family. And his mother gets really, really into religion to a point where she starts hearing the voice of God, or at least she thinks she does. That's up to interpretation. I forget what the creator, Edmund Macmillan's stance on it is. I think it was that she thinks that she hears the voice of God. But don't quote me on that. And so she takes away everything from Isaac, like all his toys, clothing, everything. And then God tells her to kill Isaac to prove her faith in him. And so she tries to, and Isaac hops into the basement to try to get away from her. It's kind of sad, but you see a lot of like little things from Isaac's life that have little symbolisms and other things of that nature to it. It's a wondrous exploration of not just motherhood, but also themes of religion, of belief, of the grosser parts of life, like a whole bunch of other stuff like that. But ostensibly, it's about that confrontation and what that means. Because Macmillan had some experience of that in his own life. And so he's tailored some of that into that game. And yeah.
Yeah, I've not played that game, but there's similar themes explored in Carrie,
Yes.
Stephen King. So, like I said, Stephen King has a lot of parent issues in his books and movies.
He does bring them in a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
a lot. Yeah, Carrie especially
Deals with
of
the religious trauma sort of thing.
the religious trauma, the paranoia, the sheltering,
Mm-hmm.
oof, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
And deals with it while also what that looks like for a young woman, again, in really coming of age, in
Oh
her
yeah.
own femininity, her own sexuality, the whole.
With absolutely zero preparation for how to handle it too.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that's something too, like, oh, the very first scene in the locker room is just so hard to, like, I've only seen Carrie once. That scene is hard to watch as a
It's
woman.
hard to forget too. And I mean,
Yeah.
every woman has that experience of the first time that happens, and it's bad enough when you know it's coming, when you've never even been told it's a thing, and that starts happening. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, and the anxiety and and it's the response of everybody else and the anxiety and fear that comes with that, and the failure of the teachers around, the other women who should be able to step up and support her, the real
Yeah.
failure to understand how to deal with this, because in essence, because to them they're like, there's nothing about this that should be traumatic, and you want to go, this is traumatic to Carrie because she doesn't understand what's happening.
Yeah.
And that is trauma, and sort of the failure to acknowledge this young woman is experiencing trauma.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing the slap a band-aid on it, toughen up and move on. Like, I felt
Yeah.
like that was the thing when I watched Carrie. I felt like even the teacher who's trying to be helpful, I want to be like, you're not doing enough. You
Well,
could be doing
yeah.
better than what you're doing. You're still being informed by your perspective, which says that there's nothing wrong with this. You're failing to truly empathize with Carrie.
And Carrie is just as a story, is a conga line of adults and other, of peers to fail, their failure to act appropriately, to do what they're there to do
Yeah.
in Carrie's life.
Yeah. And the outcome of it is, oh, look, mass murder. Well,
What'd you think was gonna happen? I mean,
Yeah.
granted, I'm sure y'all weren't expecting her to have psychokinesis, but
You know.
nonetheless,
yeah. It's sort of
Well,
a
it's like-
nature versus nurture, and look what the environment nurtured her towards. Of course she's
Yeah.
going to have a break.
and it's
Yeah.
kind of a it is wrapped in religious trauma, but it's also a look at the sort of environment that can breed either mass murderers or someone who dies a horrible death. Just the failures in society to recognize that sort of abuse and
Yeah.
to intercede.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a very real story, and I wish I could remember what her name, but there were a pair of sisters who were being watched by they're just being watched by somebody. They were only at this couple's house for like a summer when their parents were away, traveling for work, and they just thought it would be easier if they stayed with this couple. And this couple decided, especially the oldest one, to just torture her. And because she was reaching puberty, to essentially label her a whore. And I mean, it got so bad that she just essentially died of exhaustion, of physical exhaustion from all of the abuse, the physical abuse they'd put her under. And the people around, the neighborhood, the school, they saw all of this. Like, they saw the signs of the abuse, the physical bruises, they heard, the neighbors heard the cries in the night, and nobody did anything. And so it was just like a months-long murder that nobody stepped into. If one person had done something, it could have been averted. But and
feel like-
so I feel like Carrie is a look into that sort of thing. And I don't recall if this happened before or after Carrie was written, but
I mean,
Either
it's something,
way,
it's something that I feel like you see a little bit of it in that same thematically and Under the Dome, too.
oh yeah,
Of like, how horrible, like, it's sort of like, it's like the worst kept secret. It's the thing that nobody talks about, of so and
Yeah.
so's son is an asshole. It's the red flags that everybody sees but nobody does anything about. And then what you see from the perspective inside of the kid is that these are
Yeah.
serious. These are very serious problems, and no one's addressing them. No one's addressing them, and it's just spirals further and further and further.
I'm
Ugh,
trying to find the name of this girl because it really was a heartbreaking story.
that sounds like it, yeah. Yeah. You'll definitely be interested, I think, when you get to watching the X trilogy.
Sylvia
Especially,
Likens, that was her name.
that sounds
Syl-
familiar.
Yeah, she was 16 years old, and it did happen before Carrie, so I wonder if that was an inspiration, just because of how much society failed to look out for her in the hands of an extremely abusive caretaker.
Knowing just even the little, like, what I remember from what I got through, because I think I got about halfway through Stephen King's memoir before my I had to return it to the library. Yeah, I was listening to an audiobook. Fun thing, he reads the audiobook for his memoir.
Nice.
So, but I wouldn't put it past him to have incorporated it, because that was something he very much incorporated, things he observed or experienced or he saw kind of sitting in the cultural zeitgeist or sort of cultural soup into his
Yeah.
writing.
Yeah,
I still remember
and
reading
that would have
and
been
listening.
right during his. It was 1965 is when it happened, and I believe Carrie was written in 70. So
Yeah. So it may have
would have
evolved
been
it over
fresh in
time.
them. So anyway, yeah, that's a really glum look at life right there too. Both motherhood and existence as a woman and an existence as a human in an abusive relationship, nonetheless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think because it can become such a dark tunnel, it's something, again, kind of goes back to, it lends itself to being kind of a very fruitful field of material for horror. So,
I have
Very
a
fruitful.
I have an interesting question that just popped into my head. I want you to imagine if horror never existed. And I would be curious to know your thoughts in relation to, if horror never existed, what you would think of storytelling and the way that things kind of change and evolve with that. You know what I mean? Because we've been talking about how horror has done a lot to kind of help, to give insight, to be able to explore topics without, say, directly talking to a person about that topic, or being able to even safely experience certain aspects of the topics in horror. But without it, then what do things become? At least in relation to like women, do you think?
Where we don't have that way to safely interact with the more horrific possibilities that life has. Is that what you mean?
That to be able to like talk about certain subjects with the help of horror, stuff like that.
that's horrifying.
That's
It's actually terrifying, honestly, to think about that. As I feel
it's
like,
difficult because like life is full of so much horror. It's hard to imagine a world where that's not a medium, but
well, and
I
think,
imagine it would just end up getting wrapped into other genres as a subplots.
yeah, yeah. In response, yeah, I agree, and I think there's an element, a very real element. I think we've all experienced of horror storytelling is a way to sort of process anxieties, what ifs, thoughts. I mean, to put it most bluntly, I mean, I play horror games because it's how I can cope with stress, because it forces a disconnect. It forces me to disconnect from what I'm doing. So horror storytelling is kind of a way we all cope
For
with
me, it's a way
fear.
that I can explore my anxieties in a safe way and
Yeah. And I think it's a way
work through them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's a way of also learning to cope with those anxieties because you're sort of experiencing these things, but because you're experiencing through storytelling, it's through a lens of non-reality, of like horror storytelling. You know, it's not real; it's a story. You know, regardless of whether it's based off reality in that moment, it's a story being told. So it allows you to kind of cope with those emotions without the actual pressure of it really happening.
And without that way, that avenue of cope or exploration or just safe interaction with those sorts of things, it would be, I don't know. I feel like I'd just be stuck with my dreams, or that the working through those concepts and those ideas and those thoughts would just be, they'd end up getting stuck into the subconscious because I don't have a way to actually confront them. Unless, it actually happens. And sometimes it does. And that doesn't help.
That's where I feel like it really would genuinely be terrifying, because essentially we wouldn't be coping. We wouldn't be exploring and and understanding in a more healthy, sheltered way. Yeah, there are other forms of storytelling that can allow you to cope in this, but I think there's a really essential part to exploring horror that goes into helping to really cope with these negative emotions, with negative experience. There's a very that it connects to, and I think if you take that away, you end up with, like you said, Rachel, it's buried deep in the subconscious, and what we know is frankly, we all know there's a limit to how much the subconscious can take before it spills out.
And for me, it often spills out in dreams, and I would much rather handle those lines of reasoning and answer those questions of what would I do if this happened, that happened, the other thing happened, in a less stuck in my own head medium. So, movies, games.
You want to be able to get a good night's sleep.
I want to be able to handle it in a way where I know it's fake.
Yes.
When I'm dreaming, it feels extremely real. And so it's like living it, but at least with the upside of I don't have to deal with the consequences of what happened in the dream. Eventually I wake up and it's all fake. But
in that
nonetheless,
moment,
it's extremely distressing at the time. And so...
Oh, well, I mean, this whole week I've been mentioning it to my mom this week of like when I talked with her, I don't know why, but for some reason this week I have been having insanely vivid dreams. Like even if I don't remember them, I realize enough that like even the other day when I woke up and immediately could not remember anything of the dream, it was like the last thought I had as I was coming to was, this is insanely vivid. But one of the dreams, it wasn't like a nightmare, but it was like some dream of like getting caught in traffic trying to get to an airport, and then this, and then you're in the wrong terminal. And the anxiety, I remember being like, waking up being like, I feel annoyed because that was real anxiety I was experiencing. And that just was not the kind of stress I want to have while I'm dreaming. I don't want to have that kind of stress of being at the airport. Yeah, I'm like, this is not helpful. This is not restful sleep. This is not restful dreaming. So.
I gotta tell you, I want to say it was on Saturday, I had a similar sort of thing where it was real life dreams, or real life stress eeping into my dreams, and it was annoying.
I know,
I was supposed to get up and help, I was feed the kids while my husband was doing stuff related to being a treasurer for our HOA. And he had tossed the baby on me. I was feeding the baby and I fell asleep. And the number of times that I dreamed I had woken up and put the baby back in her bassinet and went down to start helping, and then wake up and nope, I'm still in bed and I'm still feeding her. And so, like, I swear I got out of bed like 10 times that morning before I finally actually woke up to do what I was supposed to do. And I just kept getting more and more frustrated. Just like, how many times am I going to do this?
Oh my gosh. And I've had that type of dream where I like keep waking up, and there is a point where it's like the angry Colonel O'Neill in his version of Groundhog Day. You're just annoyed. You're like, when am I going to get up for real? I just,
Yep.
when he goes, just wacko with the
Like, I
ketchup.
just
on the
can't get out of
button.
bed.
Yes. On that note, though, we're gonna pause. We're gonna take a break here, folks, for a
Because
bit.
baby needs me.
Baby is good. Take care of baby. Well, we're all gonna take a break, folks. Here, we're gonna throw some fun stuff at you, and then we'll be right back. And don't worry, our sponsored content is us sponsored. Our sponsored content, we make up our sponsored content. Maybe one day we'll actually have sponsored content, but for now, folks, please enjoy our sponsored content.
The deep recesses of the Confabulators' subconscious.
The other chaos we come up with.
All right.
We'll be right back.
We'll be back.
And now the Confabulators present the many sounds of Liz Strauss playing games good.
Right. I don't like.
No! Oh my gosh! What the fuck?
I don't trust anything right now. Oh God!
What the fuck?
Whoa, no.
Well, if you've just joined in, like I said, if you were here to watch somebody skillfully play this game, you really came to the wrong fucking place.
Chris is in the wrong place, Jessica's in the wrong outfit, Jill and Parker are being told that they don't even get to leave. So, you know what, guys? We're all fucked up here.
You have a guitar, Sheriff.
It's my melee weapon. Be careful, right there.
Shit, he's right behind me. Ah, there's both of them! No! They came from both directions! I went one way and I turned and he was in the other!
Okay, the hope for this is that it's not... I need to... just... fuck.
If you want to hear more of these sounds, please check out her channel at Lady Hyacinth 57 on Twitch. Thank you!
Howdy everyone, Dave here of the Confabulators. I just wanted to mention that my stream on Twitch is at twitch.tv/sheriff_Flynn, where I play a wide variety of games, usually with a horror theme. Sometimes they are FMVs, sometimes they are something such as a Metroidvania. And I will often upload those to my YouTube channel, Sheriff Flynn, where you can find anything that you might have missed from last time. Thank you very much, and keep on listening, friends.
Awesome.
Hey Voidwalkers, it's your editor, E here, with an important message. Yes, an important message about raccoon dogs. Did you know that raccoon dogs, Tanaki, are quite possibly one of the most adorable animals to grace the earth? That's right! With their cute sniffers, their adorable masks, and fluffy fur, the Tanaki is perhaps one of the cutest animals to exist on our beautiful planet. And, for the Japanese raccoon dog, they come in two subspecies. The Hondo Tanaki, found throughout most of Honshu, and the Eizo Tanaki, found in the colder climes of Hokkaido. And now you know just a little more about raccoon dogs. Have a good day and enjoy the rest of the show.
And we're back! Welcome back.
Welcome back, folks.
Lovely
All right.
commercial. So
Yeah.
good.
Wasn't that commercial just the best commercial?
Who could resist
Vibrant.
that? That product.
You need to buy the thing now.
My
Yeah.
soul has been touched.
Take my money!
My life has been made better just by seeing that commercial. Imagine how much better it would be if you bought the thing.
Yes. I really enjoyed insect product here. It was very fun.
If I don't get it, I'm gonna die.
Exactly.
If I don't watch it, I'm gonna explode. Into
And
blood
that
confetti.
Into
is
the messier
scientifically
version.
proven.
Yes. And on that note, women in horror.
Part 2.
I believe that we left off on the topic of if horror no longer existed, and then I think we're proceeding from there.
Indeed.
Exactly. Man, so we've got. Well, when I was thinking about it while we were on the break, and I did kind of want to throw out because we've talked a lot about like the themes of like motherhood in horror, and then as well of what if we didn't have horror? I'm curious, especially about the heroine in horror, the female protagonist, from the standpoint of, I don't want to say not the damsel in distress, because a lot of times they start that way, but I guess I'm kind of curious about, because we've seen, motherhood, we've seen victims, and I'm kind of curious because it's maybe it's because for me, like my love of the evolution of Laurie Strode, my love of the Resident Evil franchise, where the women are fucking badasses, honestly. Even if the films are sometimes a little ridiculous, but even in the games, the women are still badasses. So, but I'm kind of curious of the take of women in horror as the heroines. Because we've looked at some of the women as villains or the victims.
Yep.
And just, but let's be real. We know, like, our Ellen Ripleys, our Laurie Strodes.
Classic.
Are women who will fuck you up because they've seen some shit.
I'd even like to throw in, and I think it's, well, the second one is probably more so this, but it's debatable if it would be sci-fi. Linda Hamilton in Terminator.
Terminator 2. I was thinking that too.
Sarah Connor.
Her. Well, and I mean, not as iconic, but like last night I just watched Annihilation, which the film is classed as horror. The book is classed as science fiction, the book that it's based off of. But as a film, it definitely has horror elements, very existential horror in like the way Lovecraftian kind of can be. But again, when the premise of the story in Annihilation is that even in the book, even though there's obviously some differences in the book, the bottom line is the immediate story is following a group of women now. This next team that's being sent into the Shimmer to investigate is a team of women. And now with the film we have Natalie Portman and 4 other women going in to investigate Le Shimmer.
And they're going to find Apocalypse, right?
Yeah, or figure out...
Or Poe Dameron, or whatever.
Yeah, I know. The character, the person who I was like, wait, Oscar Isaac's in this? Oh, okay. He has a really extensive part.
The source, as it were.
Yeah.
Which I really enjoyed Annihilation, both the book and the movie. I've read all 3 books. I know there's a 4th one that just came out, but I don't really consider it as part of the trilogy, as part of that story. Mainly because like it came out so much later than the rest. But Annihilation, in both of them, it doesn't feel like anybody's a good guy. It doesn't feel like anybody's like a hero. It feels more like people who are trying to survive, more so cooperatively in the movie than the book. The book feels more like it's kind of a free-for-all, and like people are just being assholes to one another. And it's very fascinating, that juxtaposition between the book and movie. I think that there's a lot more sympathy for the main character in both book and movie because we're seeing from their perspective. But I feel like we would get a similar sensation from any of the perspectives.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lena's a little bit everyman in the sense that there is a sort of shared experience between all the women. It's
Yeah.
consistent.
And we never really get a name for any of them. At least in the book. I don't remember if we do in the movie. I don't
The
think we
movie
do.
names them. No, the movie names them because
Oh.
Portman plays Lena. You've got Lena, Jess, the psychiatrist, hilarious, and this is just hilarious to me as a Star Wars nerd, is Dr. Ventress, and I want to be like, really? Really? Because the only
Is
thing
she-
I think of when I hear Ventress is
Is she pale, bald, and wields 2 lightsabers? Is that your psychiatrist?
No, blonde. That's about as close as we get. And then I'm totally remembering there's also Shepard and one other. But they're all named in the film.
Okay.
So
I think I think the reasoning for that, and this is just my opinion, they probably gave names to those characters because they wanted to have the audience relate to them more. But
yeah.
the point of the books was to have a certain distance between them and the reader, even if you're following the protagonist. So you only get their names as their jobs. So there's a bit of a distance, and that distance also adds to the atmosphere of the world in which they inhabit, and also gives them a distance between themselves. And so even though they're going out as a team, they never really feel like a team. And that's kind of why everything happens the way it happens, in big part. Because nobody is really connected to one another. There's a lack of connection there.
The film captures that, I think, more through cinematography and the way it paces itself and it frames things. Of a little bit more of that disconnect, but they go for capturing that in a different way. Where you're right, they do sort of. There's something a little bit There's something in film and storytelling that is grounding when you name a character, which hilariously enough, that just reminded me that hilariously enough, the only reason you get the name Alice in the first Resident Evil movie is in the credits. She's never physically named in the film ever.
Well, that's because she didn't exist in the games. It's
Exactly.
just my theory.
Well,
there.
I mean, there's that, but she's named as Alice in the credits, but she's never named in the film. The films don't actually refer to her by name until the second film, even though she's still credited under that character name. So just, total aside, that just kind of when we mentioned about naming characters and everything, that was just an interesting little aside.
Where
Yeah.
we're going, we don't
Yeah.
need names.
But yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Annihilation was definitely an interesting. I was glad I said. I'd started to watch it like a year ago and had not finished it, and I'm glad I went back and watched it. It's very what I would describe as existential horror, which goes hand in hand with science fiction very well. I feel like there's actually a fair amount of sci-fi out there that ventures into horror because it does the existential type horror.
I think there's an interesting blurring of lines between sci-fi and horror. And an example of that is Annihilation. Because
Alien
when I
would be another. Yeah.
Yeah.
because when I think of Annihilation, I also think about my favorite Lovecraft story, which is The Color Out of Space, which
Yeah.
is
That's what I was thinking of when I watched it.
Yeah, I think Annihilation is heavily inspired by The Color, just because it has a lot of like feelings of dread and whatnot to this unnameable force that is exerting not even its will, but just existence on the world around it.
It's that existential where it's not that it's a big bad, but we fear it. So it's the dread, and it's almost the dread of the mirror that it holds up, which Annihilation quite literally has that mirror, the scene that's almost like a dance in terms of the mirror and the horror.
Yeah.
Of that moment.
And it's interesting to think about like characters being protagonists in situations like that. Just because the force of the thing that is not knowable is a very difficult thing to confront.
Yeah. Well, they
I
confront it in a way that I think works in the element of it's impossible what they're seeing. I think
Yeah.
the conversations between Lena and Jess, so it's Natalie Portman and Tessa Thompson's character, are probably the most insightful into kind of the existential response and the horror people are feeling of, Tessa Thompson's character having this is what this is doing, this space is doing, and Portman's character being like, this is not possible. Like it kind of right in there encapsulates the element of scientifically based on the world they know, none of this is possible, yet it is happening.
That brings a question to mind. What? So when it comes to women in horror, and we're talking about heroines, do you find that there is a different moment compared to other stories wherein the protagonist needs to rise up and take that step forward to be the hero? And if so, what kind of lens is it that you see it as far as like being feminine focused versus say a generalization, like a general rising up to take on the challenge? If that makes sense as a question.
That does.
For me, what differentiates it from just a generic rising up to the moment versus feminine is when the woman's been kind of just accepting what's happening, trying to deal with it, but not actually trying to fix it. She's like not rocking the boat, that sort of thing. And when she reaches a breaking point and starts fighting back, that to me, it differentiates it between a feminine moment and a more generic rise up moment. One thing that comes to mind for me, I don't know if either of you have seen it, Eden Lake.
I'm not familiar with that.
Oh. Well, it's renowned for having one of the most bleak endings of horror movies, but the premise of it is that you have a couple who are trying to go and have a romantic getaway at the lake, and there are some kids nearby who are causing a ruckus. Initially, it's just they're making loud music that's kind of ruining the atmosphere, and it's essentially her boyfriend / he came here to propose to her, and he's not taking it. He's just getting irritated with them, and the conflict between the two groups just keeps escalating and escalating until it gets way out of hand. And for most of the movie, the protagonist, the woman of the couple, has just been trying to smooth things over, calm things down, calm things down, calm things down. But then it gets to a point where that's just not a feasible response anymore. And you can kind of see the moment where that the heroism kind of breaks through. Now, in that particular movie, it's hard to... Yes, she's a badass. She survives ridiculous things. But because of how bleak the movie is, it's hard to characterize anyone as being particularly heroic. But you can tell that moment where she goes from being a victim to choosing to survive. And I feel like that is characteristic of the feminine heroism versus a more generic heroism, if that makes sense.
It does. Well, and I was thinking about it too, I think the feminine heroism very much, I think, is informed by the history of women's roles within society, of matriarchy versus patriarchy, of being in a society that has largely been governed by male voice. And I say that looking at historically, like, we're in America here, so like the history of the U.S., and, women gained certain rights and all that. So all that socio-political whatever aside, but when you look at that in stories, I see that for women, that rise up a lot of times really is that ownership and empowerment from within self. Now, I see it too in other stories, and in fact, I love it when I see it cross genders in stories, because it really is something that everybody goes through. But I think it's one that we see a lot in female-led stories with the heroine, because it is something that is intrinsically very personal, because it's, and in storytelling in movies, a lot of times it is a woman in a male-dominated group, for whatever reason, whether it's a male-dominated society, or like you use the example of Eden Lake, and the woman playing the peacemaker, playing the passive one, and that goes to more of how women have often been portrayed,
and often how women end up being too. We are more not emotionally driven, but we have generally speaking, this is not applicable to everybody, but generally women have more of an empathetic approach. We want things to be calm. We don't want conflict, because generally speaking, again, we wouldn't have the physical advantage if things came to a conflict. So we want to calm it down before it gets to that point. Usually
and
speaking.
Socially, that's been enforced.
Yeah,
Kind of
it has.
Enforcement, which is why it's like it's not the rule across the board, but it is socially what has been kind of enforced.
Yeah,
in our lives
and whether that's because
play
of
that role.
Yeah, and whether that's because of sociopolitical things or just basic biology of we wouldn't necessarily win a fight with most men, so we don't want it to come to that, or even the more familial element of mothers or women are the caregivers, or have been historically the caregivers, while the men are the breadwinners. So you just got a lot of these different elements that come into what a woman is, and the role that women have either by design or just by pure evolution or biology or what have you have been put into as far as society goes. That is typically how women go, is they want to go along to get along. They want to smooth things over. They want peace. They want to try to come at it from a more diplomatic approach rather than smashing it in the face with a hammer.
What is the best and worst portrayal in horror of that heroine rising that you've seen? It may not be like the grand overall one, but like what you can think of right now, right? You might think of one later that's better, but for the moment, right, just to put a little pressure off for the moment, what's the best and worst?
I'm going to right off the bat say one example definitely is Maxine. And to me, that's a very full circle, again, since we are highly encouraging you, Rachel, to watch this franchise.
Yeah, I'm
I
looking
will
forward
just
to
say
seeing
that,
it.
but when you talk, like when you were referencing the turn of when she hits that limit, especially in the third film, you see that emotional point where she has to decide, how to respond because the limit is reached. And I think that's definitely very evident in Maxine.
So that would be an example of good, I'm gathering.
Yes, it's it's very well done.
Yeah, I'm trying.
It is very well done. I would say actually, on the converse side, Pearl also showcases that right before that, but it shows what happens when the character goes in another direction, but they still hit that limit. But it's a look at kind of the rise. One looks at the rise, and the other looks at the downfall.
Okay. I'm trying to think of bad examples, and I know I've seen terrible examples, and I'm just coming up with a blank.
I mean, I'm going to throw out, we talked about it earlier, of the Netflix Texas Chainsaw when Sally comes back. Because
I'd agree with that.
It's not played well.
It's not forced.
Yeah, it's very forced. And I think even the main characters, the main character who's supposed to be the young woman, who's the whole backstory setup of the main focus character being that she survived a school shooting before and all this, and none of it's played well. It's very forced relevancy.
It's very ham-fisted. Clearly there's... I'm never one to cry necessarily studio meddling, but it felt like a producer had an agenda and really wanted to cram it into the script no matter what it did to the story.
It really felt like that. It felt very biased, and not in a way of like saying it's this or that kind of bias, but it just felt very deliberately like
Preachy.
yeah, and not even in a good coherent way. It was just like somebody very kind of forcing. That film had a lot of stereotypes in it, I'll be honest. That's what it
Yeah.
was. It was very like everybody was extremely stereotyped. I mean, it bothered me that the main character, this young woman who's sort of portrayed as maybe being a little bit gender neutral. So of course played in the like, not that she was actually, but they portray her as that modern doesn't it fully does exhibit all female, all male trade, whatever that, but everything felt forced about it, and it really was when it was supposed to be her trauma was she survived a school shooting. And the way it just felt so forced. Like,
you know what it felt like? It felt like some big fat studio exec was like, "This is what the kids are into. Hello there, fellow kids." And so it came up with all of the worst, like, Gen Z stereotypes and crammed them into the movie.
Yes, it really did. It did, and it's so painful. And they did it with every single woman in that film. They did it with every single character in that film.
Yeah, it was everything in that movie.
Yeah, and it's just, whereas you had so much potential, if you go all the way back to the very original Texas Chainsaw to Sally's, there could have been a potentially really interesting story to tell had they followed more the example of Halloween in 2018, where they say, we're not going to overlook the fact that this character is traumatized. 2018, I think, that one did a good job.
Yeah, although, golly, with how traumatized Sally was by the end of the Texas Chainsaw movie, the first one, I'm not sure how you could have had her come back as some sort of heroine and not overlooked that.
Well, I just think, if not as a heroine, I think there was more potential for them to tell a much more interesting story.
I agree. Yeah.
I would like to give a sudden idea pitch offer on that.
Sure.
Sally's taken to a mental institution after the traumatic events. 10 years later, they get Bubba in that same institution. Now we see what happens when she realizes this.
Oh.
And it's
There's
Bubba
your movie.
Unmasked. It's Bubba unmasked, but it is Bubba.
Oh, man.
There's your movie.
Why didn't they do that?
Because they saw Halloween 2018 and wanted to do that.
And see, there's so much room for that, especially because the original film never shied away. I mean, I remember watching it at the end, and to me, there's a very bleak element at the end of that film, because even though she gets out, but it's because
she never has that rise up moment. She just breaks. She gets out by sheer luck.
Yeah, you're sort of like, she got away, but did she really get away? Because you can see very clearly in that final shot. I mean, they freeze frame.
She's lost herself.
Yeah,
she's lost herself. She's
completely lost her mind. And it's just like, how does somebody come back from that? Or can they come back from that? And that in and of itself leaves a thread for, is there room to tell a story in which she comes back from that? But what does that look like? And I think that's one of the biggest failings of the Netflix film, was that it didn't acknowledge that at all. It just went, she came back from that and became a badass. It's like they saw the 2018 Halloween and went, we want to do that too. Here, we'll do it with this woman.
It seems like they saw the trailers for Halloween 2018, didn't actually watch the movie to see any of the traumatic element of what was going on with Laurie, and was just like, oh yeah, she came back as a badass, let's just do that.
Yeah, and whereas, that one, Laurie, I could kind of just go on and on, honestly, but I mean, to me, there is so much nuance in also how Laurie's experience, the trauma, that incident affects everybody, not even just her family, but everybody around her. Because when you think about it, the instance of all the other high schoolers, this is what, several
Shucks with
teenagers
the-
getting murdered violently in what's a small town, so everybody knows each other. And, you know, like, I still laugh at the little, like, side note to Ben Kramer, you know, being mentioned in the 2018 film when he's the guy she has a crush on in the original, you know, and the girl and her friends teasing her of, oh, Ben Kramer wants to take you to the prom or homecoming or whatever. And that they even brought it back up of, the sheriff being like, well, you were with Ben at the time. And there's so much interwoven culture in there. And then even going into like Halloween Kills, where they start diving into when you have something this terrifying affect a town, how does that affect the people?
Yeah.
You know, and that's
they dive into that in the second of the reboot, not reboot, but the new trilogy.
Halloween Kills, yeah.
Yeah,
and
Halloween
I actually
Kills.
really like Kills for that.
I did too. I appreciated that, and then the kind of they dabble in the what happens when you've got a mob and that sort of level of paranoia and fear in an entire community. And I also, just as an aside, kind of really enjoyed the decision to make the kid that she was babysitting in the first movie the face of that mob. And
yes,
so,
have him come back and be the ringleader, so it becomes also how different people deal with.
Yeah, because he would have been dealing with some serious trauma after that too.
Yeah.
So,
well, and that they even brought in like that there is a group of all who are a group of people. You know, he's the face of it, and then there's also these other ones who are all here who all are in one way or another survivors from this because they encountered Michael, but they didn't die.
Yeah,
and it's so that's how you can do it. And you can just really fall down that rabbit hole. And then there's what Netflix did with Texas Chainsaw. And it just went...
Yeah.
They also got into they fell into the trap of they wanted to make, I think... They couldn't decide whether they wanted to make a slasher or a serious movie. And I think that's the other trap they fell into. Whereas Halloween, at its best, in my view, has not leaned on the slasher element. It's not relied on that. It has been secondary to telling a story. Because, I mean, the original Halloween's not that graphic.
No, it's really not.
At all, yeah. Like, I remember being with friends who were here, and we were getting ready to watch, and we were trying to decide which movies to watch, and, like, on the list was, like, you know, because not everybody was big into horror. One on the list was, like, original Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween, and they were kind of torn because nostalgia value, and I said, look, and one of them's like, well, I'm not really big in gore, and I'm like, if you're not big in gore, then Halloween's the going to go, because... Nightmare on Elm Street's a lot more slasher. Honestly. Yeah,
it's got some weird and disturbing imagery that Halloween just doesn't.
Suck into the bed, bed vomit blood.
One thing that occurs to me in that regard, this is a topic we can spin off into its own episode. Probably is like, does Halloween occupy that space where it's maybe more thriller than it is horror?
It's a little bit, I think it sits in horror because of kind of the nature of what it is and it's evolved into. And I mean, we're not talking high budget films, which sort of put it in that area. But I would say there's a thriller element to it.
I would say that there's a strong argument to be made for that. Like, by itself, without taking into account the franchise it spawned, I could say a strong argument could be made for that being a thriller.
Yeah.
Just like, I mean, frankly, I could say a strong argument could be made for Saw, the first one, being a thriller. Because
it's like a detective mystery thriller.
I was going to say, everything it's been years and years and years since I last watched Saw, but the impression I still walk away with is more mystery thriller with something horrifying, a few horrifying things you see, and then something really horrifying at the end.
Yeah. You always get your oh crap montage at the end of a Saw movie, but I mean, it was much more of a thriller than the sequels ended up being.
With Saw,
which is another crossover with it. Like, we talked about science fiction and the close marriage of science fiction and horror, and I think mystery thriller and horror.
Oh yeah, they're like twins in the womb, but fraternal.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I think genre crossing is a fantastic topic. We'll put a pin in.
I'd love that. Yeah,
we had to get at least one pin in per episode. So
Yeah,
Pinhead
we have at
is
least one
not
Pinhead.
Pinhead.
Yep.
So how about, as far as that rise up moment goes with women, what are your all's thoughts on the more, the kind of, the stereotypical 70s, like, exploitation type horrors, where there's a vengeance streak at the end? I'm thinking, like, I Spit on Your Grave, Last House on the Left, those sorts of movies. What are your thoughts on those?
I actually haven't seen either of those two, so I'm trying to think of what films I've seen that fall in that.
I think that they're with that specific subgenre, you have to be very careful about the line that you cross, more so than I think a lot of other horror, because it could go from exploitation that actually holds weight to exploitation that's just gross.
Yeah.
There was one that I saw, and I can't remember the name of it offhand, that I thought was really interesting. And I saw it a long time ago. It may not have aged well, but I'm not sure. But it was about this woman who went down to somewhere in Texas, and she was there with her boyfriend, who was a different race, and some of the residents didn't take too well to that, and so they abducted her and committed various sexual assaults to her. They didn't show it, but it happened. And so as she died, a indigenous chief spirit took part of her body, and so basically she was sharing a body with this indigenous chief, and they started going on a tear, killing those guys one by one in various graphic ways.
So, kind of almost Crowish.
Yeah, kind of Crowish.
Yeah. Okay.
I was gonna
That's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
What's weird is I'm thinking of even, it's not the whole movie, but as Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Oh, that's a
bit
really
of that.
good one.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, that's one that I've never watched it since the first time I saw it, because that was way more than enough. That was a lot.
I've
Which
only
one?
seen the English one.
The one with Daniel Craig and
Okay. I've only seen the Swedish one.
The Swedish one.
The American.
I'm ashamed. I really should watch the OG, but I've only
I'm
seen the
not sure I
American
could
made
even
one.
bring myself to watch it.
The OG one is fantastic.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard, which is why I'm ashamed I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I liked the David Fincher. Is that who did it? I think that's who did it. The English speaking one. I liked it a lot, but I hear that the original is so much better.
Yeah, I'd be curious a little bit, but it's hard because, to me, it's horrifying. It's terrifying what happens to
especially
her character.
that scene. Yeah.
Yeah, both scenes with her. I mean, one's more implied, but then her revenge scene is like, it's scary. It's scary because it's so gratuitous, I feel like. And at the same time, it's also scary because it's like, you know how much rage is there.
Yeah, well,
But
and that's
it's
the
not
thing.
any
Is
easier to watch. Like, it gets into that exploitation with the point.
Yes, and that's why, I mean, I'm not like huge into that subgenre, but why it interests me is and disturbs me in some senses is because, I mean, usually it's something horrendous that's happened.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it's of a sexual nature, and there is a lot of rage that would be pent up with that. And so to imagine yourself in that situation where you have the people who did this to you at your disposal, and then you see these horrible things that, you know, oftentimes you can come to the conclusion that she's become almost as much of a monster as they are, if not perhaps more, in her revenge. And it's just like, but at what point does it become no longer justified? And at what point, beyond that point, would I start to, in her position, think maybe I've gone too far? You know, because there's just that raw rage and anger, and so
yeah,
it's yep.
it's an interesting question. I think not anybody, but I think most people could probably pose that question in an honest manner and really try to work through that.
Yeah.
And I think in part that might be, I'm not saying that everybody who makes those specific stories does it intentionally, but those who do allow for the character who's getting vengeance to go so far so that people can explore, well, where would I stop at? Why would someone go this far? Things like that. And I think without that, people might not have that question in the first place. They might be like, well, that's good right there. We did it. Hooray. Right?
Yeah.
Rather than, I think we're stepping a little bit far here. Let's pump the brakes a little and really think about this.
Yeah.
It allows you to sort of cope with the how far is too far by putting up a mirror and forcing you to judge somebody else when you also you know what has happened to them.
Yeah.
And that's really, and perspective is everything.
And that's why Last House on the Left, I really like that one. I don't remember the original very much, but I've seen the remake, and I really like that because, one, again, it appeals to the parent in me. The thing that they're avenging isn't what happened to them. It's what happened to their daughter. And so then you've got the mom and dad, once they realize what's going on, things get out of hand. And so it offers some, and it toes that line because, I mean, what they do to the guys who hurt her, not always actually excessive, but sometimes like it toes the line. And so it's like, I don't know, I really like the thought question of like what would I do to somebody who did that to Aveline, you know? Just like, what wouldn't I do to someone who did that to Aveline?
It's kind of asking that question. It's funny because it's a theme that actually I see happen a lot in Criminal Minds. Like I think I've mentioned, I've been rewatching it lately, and that comes up a lot, especially in the element of kind of a, you know, because the premise of that show is them getting inside the killer's head, so there's a lot more time spent on what makes somebody go that far. But that question too of, you know, you understand why this person's doing it, but does that make it okay?
Exactly. And that's the question that I really find interesting. If those movies are done well, and the unfortunate reality is that a lot of those movies just go in for how far can we make it? How shocking can we make this? Both the crime and the revenge, you know? And so, and then it's less about asking interesting thought questions and more about just shock factor.
Exactly. Well, and I'll even say of Criminal Minds, some episodes do a better job than others. You know, they fall into the same traps that a lot of crime procedurals do, which is, you know, there are things that are not handled well in it, and it's like, yeah, because we're still not good at having conversations about some of these things.
Yeah, sure.
Yup. But yeah, it's a difficult question to pose, I think, and pose well, because it is also, there is an element that you have to be willing to hold up a mirror to people and be criticized for it.
Yeah.
And
to actually ask the questions in good faith.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
And that's tough. That's tough. I mean, you know, we had, you know, Dave, you and I had our whole conversation about where is the line. And the line being, there's so much that is subjective about where the line is in a film. What other people, one person sees as being thought-provoking because it gets them to ask the question of, you know, what is too far, to another person is, this is disgusting, why would you even shoot this?
Yeah. Prime example, Terrifier.
Yep.
I feel like that's an example of how not to rise up.
there's at least one person who thinks that Terrifier is the best movie in the whole wide world, and bless their heart, they are wrong, but they exist.
Man, yeah. One of my besties is just fixated on those movies, and I don't understand it.
Oh, no.
I read the premise in a synopsis and went, that is more than enough. Dave was the one who really took one for the team, and you watched the first and second one for our line episode. Yeah, he watched it. I went,
You suffered.
nope.
I'm pretty desensitized, and I'm not going to watch those movies. Not anytime soon, anyway. And so...
I thought about watching the third one, and I was just like, I don't want to.
You know what I found myself kind of thinking, though, that similar question, though, is last night, after I watched Annihilation, which also, by the way, hilariously, you know how, streaming services will say, here's what we recommend you watch next, and it's usually based off of, like, your watching patterns and also what you just watched. They went, you may also like Event Horizon. Which I looked at and went,
wait, you know what?
I will willingly watch it again, but I'm not watching it right now. So I thought, okay, well, I've been meaning to watch this series, and I watched the first episode of Yellow Jackets.
Oh boy.
Not familiar.
I'm not familiar
Basically, it's the shortest version I can give of the premise without going into the plot is it's taking the idea of Lord of the Flies and just applying it in a more modern story. So it's a soccer team of a high school girls soccer team is going to nationals. The plane crashes and they're stranded for 19 months. And this is all set up in the very first episode. But then most of the very first episode is spent setting up, like, it ends on the plane crashing. But meanwhile, they're flashing between 20 years, 10, 15 years, like all the way like 20 years into the future when the survivors are adults with kids in high school now, versus all the way back to when they were going through it. Also with flashes to when they were stranded, which are the most unhinged looking moments. But it definitely got me thinking about, I can see why this isn't a show for everybody, because this is really, it's why everybody, and to me, it's the epitome of why Lord of the Flies is uncomfortable.
If memory serves, if memory serves, Lord of the Flies with a side of the Donner Party.
I wouldn't know the other part of it, but it's definitely an element of
Donner Party is cannibalism.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. That's the one. Yeah, it is. It is that. I was forgetting the association. But yeah, and it's holding up. But, Lord of the Flies, it is meant to, I think, really examine and hold up the lens of what happens to people in these situations, but also the nature of people.
Yes. Nature, not nurture, is what that is really designed to show you. That even the youngest of us, who are allegedly innocent, when given a chance to run free of society's shackles, will truly turn an ugly head. And it shows that humans are inherently flawed creatures.
Yeah, and Yellow Jackets is already doing the same thing. They're doing it through the lens of a slightly older, but still children. Children.
Which means I'll actually be able to watch it without being too distressed, because when it's young children, I just can't. Not anymore.
They're
high schoolers, so I can handle it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it also deals with, because they're dealing with young women,
It is different, because they were young boys in Lord of the Flies. Yeah.
Yeah. At least, and like I said, I've only watched the first episode, but from what I've seen from the first episode, there were only 3 male people on that plane, outside of not knowing whether the pilot was a man or whoever, which is the coach and his 2 sons, who also appear to be about in the youngest looks like he's probably either late middle school or early high school, and then the other one who's high school age. So it's like, okay, so this is going to be dealing with a few other themes that, with, what was it, Lord of the Flies was like 8 to 10-year-olds or something like that. Yeah. So this is going to also be dealing with budding sexuality, and womanhood in the 90s. But it's definitely one of those ones where I'm like, this is going to be uncomfortable to watch. But because, again, it's looking at that mirror and...
Yeah. Revealing uncomfortable truths about our nature.
Yeah. Yes.
The only thing
I ask those questions.
There is one thing I do want to point out, and this is maybe me being a little pedantic thematically with Lord of the Flies. One thing that kind of flies over a lot of heads and the interpretation of it, and I think this is a cultural thing, because we don't have this as an institution in America, is that my understanding of Lord of the Flies is it's meant to be a specific kind of critique of like elite boarding school culture in Britain.
Sure,
Like,
yeah.
like at the time, and also from my understanding, listening to some British folks talk about it, it's still the case today. Like the sort of boarding schools like politicians and captains of industries children go to, and like, so it's less of a reflection on what is human nature and more like the gist I get of it is these boarding schools are I would say it's actually more of a nurture thing, because my understanding is these boarding schools are basically training these people to be... They're training them to be sociopaths, is what it is. Like, the entire culture is set up to basically turn anyone who goes into there into a budding sociopath. But you're one of the elite, so it's okay. So you get to do that to everyone, including the other sociopaths, so...
Yeah.
So you're
There's
saying
definitely a
that they
classist
learn how to
thing.
hit kids with rocks to get their glasses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's definitely a classist element in
There is,
in Lord
yeah.
of the Fly. I remember that being a subject. Interestingly enough, yeah, because it's not maybe as boarding school isn't as kind of common here in the States, but it is interesting because there is a major boarding school in the DC metro area. I think it's further out in Virginia, but it's sort of reaching. But I say DC metro area because a lot of the people going to it are high up politicians. It's an all girls boarding school, and I only know this because I happen to know somebody who went there, was not living at the school, but was going there at the time. But she talked about how you would end up with students who were children of diplomats or international, like they're there because their parents are ambassadors from such and so country, very elite level classism. So, but yeah, it's not a piece of culture that's maybe as central.
It's not as ingrained into American life.
It's not a story that's easy to tell and get relatability because it's not common. I mean, my entire life, one person, but whereas boarding school was much more, I think, widely used overseas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember having a teacher who grew up overseas in high school. He grew up overseas because one of his parents was State Department, and I think I remember him saying that, like, even while they were stationed in like Egypt, he was sent to boarding school in Europe. But that's just because that's just what you did.
Yep.
So, but yeah, it's definitely. It'll be interesting watching Yellow Jackets see them approach the story, since they're approaching these kind of questions, but through the lens of femininity.
Yeah.
That's got me intrigued, because, Lord of the Flies looked at it by looking at,
Boys.
young boys, yeah. The South Park age group. By that I mean it's pretty much. But really, though, the kids in South Park are all right in that age group. They're like 8 to 10 years old. So now it's like,
Piggy! And we know who Kenny was.
Yep. But now instead we're looking at teenage young women, which is definitely
a different demographic.
Yeah.
But just as capable of sinking to those depths.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's an interesting element to that they're exploring it through, they're athletes too. So it's it's deliberately pushing away from just saying this is just a big group of girls. They're still going to have the traits of the stereotype of a big group of girls, but these are also all top athletes.
They're very physically fit. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the premise is they're on their way to nationals when the plane crashes. So they're good at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So
someone's going to get hit with a rock, get their glasses
Maybe
taken.
it's going to be a rock-sized, a rock shaped like a soccer ball, or whatever their sports ball of choice is.
Yep.
I mean, I'm one episode in, and I've already seen one person fuck up their leg so badly that a bone popped out of their knee, and that was before they got in the plane crash. And then the other thing I've already seen is somebody fall into a pit of spikes.
I'd like to think that the screwing up the knee thing prevented that person from being on the plane.
That I believe is the case. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, good.
So hey,
the one who
silver linings
into but caused the injury is on the plane. Because what happens in a scrimmage match and somebody crosses paths with you and you land wrong?
I think
what happens in scrimmage match stays in scrimmage match.
I think that takes the complex knee fracture over 19 months in Cannibal Forest.
Sliding tackle.
Yeah, I mean, the one who falls into a pit and gets spiked does also get eaten later.
Oh dear.
So, you know.
Well, why let that perfectly good meat go to waste?
Exactly.
And that's how we get prion disease.
Don't forget, fat is flavor.
So now, let's jump back, you know, now we've gone to the unhinged level of feminine horror and women in horror.
Where's the line? Where's the line?
This kind of circles me back, though, too, of... are women being badasses in horror? And that's probably one of the things, like, I love explorations of it, but I love seeing women in horror just kind of own the scene. The Maxine, even.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the ones that come in and just go, fuck this shit. And it's not necessarily a revenge streak. It's not necessarily I'm getting payback, but those stories I also really enjoy, which I think is also why I really enjoy the women in Resident Evil, because they're women in not who everything's against them, and it's just like, yeah, I'll just deal with it. You know. And it's not all lock and load. And I mean, I'm thinking of even the games in this, but I will say that in games, it is when I do enjoy seeing a female protagonist in games, in horror, which, as we've discussed earlier, is not actually something you see as much in video games.
Yeah.
But it's something I very much enjoy when you do get a female-led story.
You know what my mind goes to for this? And I probably rambled about it a bunch to you guys. Signalis. That one is, like, it is female-led. It is a female love story. And, like, there is no point in that story in which Elster is not a complete badass about it. Like, she is literally traipsing through a reality-warping hellscape in order to keep the promise to the woman she loves. She doesn't even fully remember what the promise is, but it's like her care, her feelings, and, like, her bond with her partner is giving her this drive to even literally confront her own, like, she's an android, but to confront her own mortality in all this and overcome it all as best she can just to keep this one final promise they made to each other after they had basically, like, been abandoned by their country and like, without spoiling too much about it, they are sacrificial lambs for national glory. And like, without again spoiling too much, that goes completely sideways and plunges them into this hell. But, like, I admire that character and I love that story so fucking much, and it, like, it's this weird mix of uplifting and heartbreaking at the same time, and it's difficult to quantify, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's kind of a female... It's female empowerment.
It is, very much.
In the lens of horror. Which is something I do enjoy seeing that explored. And I'm curious...
I think...
Rachel and Dave, like...
The most recent thing that I saw, horror-wise, where I would think of badasses, like women becoming badasses, would be Sinners.
Oh, I hadn't
all
thought
the
of
women
that.
in there have their moments where they have to kind of rise up and do the thing. And even when they're not, like, they're living their lives and they're being who they are. And while, there's societal things that are going on during that period of time, they're also not necessarily taking that shit. You know what I mean? And so they're there and they're expressive, and they're living their lives until this event occurs at night at the juke joint. And even then, when they have to step up and confront this thing that's occurring, they're still in it. They don't shy away. They don't run in fear. They're afraid, like you can tell, but they do their best to like keep that down and adapt to what's going on.
Yeah.
So I would say that is the most recent one. I almost said weapons, but
I was going to ask you about weapons in
Not-
that regard, because my understanding is like, again, I
No
haven't
spoilers.
Seen, no spoilers.
It just came out.
No spoilers. I haven't seen the movie, but my understanding is like it's less badass and more like she's an every woman in the reaction.
the female protagonist in Weapons, and I'll do my best to keep this as spoiler free as possible. The female protagonist in Weapons does what I would expect a normal person in that position to do. And I think that of all the characters in that world, in that story, the things that they do would be something that they, as a human being, ordinary person, would do.
Yeah.
So not necessarily badass in the sense of like, sinners or whatever, but like they do step up when they have to. So I guess in that sense, that would be the most recent example of badass.
If I can ask a question,
As in every
It's-
person.
about that, it's like,
Yeah, it's a little more what if, what would a typical
do you
person.
think it
Yeah.
gives a little space to be imperfect and messy, but still get things done?
Yes.
And that's
Easily,
what I like
yes.
with my badasses, both male and female. I like them to have their awesome moments, but I also like them to feel breakable. Like they don't
Yeah.
feel invincible. I think my most recent horror movie experience of some would be Abigail. You have a lot of female badassery in that movie, but also it's messy and they get hurt, and they feel breakable and they feel vulnerable, and yet they still prevail. So like, that's how I like them, and I like my male protags like that too. I just like
Yeah.
I like humans to feel breakable because we are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's something very compelling when the character isn't perfectly one way or another, when they're not black and white, when there's shades of gray in there. I think we've already really hit home that we see that in Laurie Strode. That yes, she can be a badass, but she's also a very vulnerable, traumatized human. Off the top of my head, I also think of like Michonne probably being one of the more prominent ones for the badassery in
Yeah.
The Walking Dead. But the more the series explores Michonne, and I'm talking more from the
She's
show's
a
perspective, but
Really good example of that. Yeah, I agree.
and she's very flawed, very deeply traumatized, very motivated by her experiences with that trauma. And she's not always right. Who also came to mind, and I cannot remember, Courtney Cox. Scream.
Gale Weathers?
Gail
Yeah,
Weathers.
Gale Weathers. As the movies progress, especially when you get to some of the more recent ones, where to me she starts out one way.
She starts out so punchable.
Yeah, but it is interesting to me that she does evolve to the most recent ones, to where I really look at her and go, this character has grown. And not like that it's grown on me, but that you see character growth. You see that change.
Yeah.
You see them kind of...
I like to think of it as the Dewey effect. He had a chilling, not a chilling, but like a calming effect upon her. Made her chill out just a little bit. Like,
Well, he was not what she aspired to be or what she thought of herself as, and
It's
yet
what she needed.
and yet she had to confront in herself that this was exactly what she needed and what she wanted.
I want to put forth the question. Do you think that Gail grew more than Sydney?
yes.
From
Start to end, I would say yes.
I would agree, yeah. I think Sydney, and part of it's because we see Gail start as somebody who's very shallow.
Very shallow and very just incredibly self-absorbed.
Yeah,
Willing to
and
use anyone and everyone around her to get what she wants. Sydney started off naive
and also traumatized a little bit.
And she continued to be traumatized, but less naive. Whereas Gail, is, like, just over time has grown into almost a completely new person, but in a way that makes sense.
Yeah,
It doesn't feel like
forced.
it doesn't feel like they just reworked her character into something new just for the sake of making her more likable.
Yeah, which is also impressive because you get the impression a lot of her growth happens off screen, because there's a lot of, like, you know, okay, now, like, just in, like,
but, like, not in a hand-wavy way. Like, they did it well.
Yeah, I think, like, hers and Dewey's relationship, for what you actually get on screen versus what is basically alluded to, said, or explained, is understood. It's like, there's a lot more here, but I'm not bothered that I don't see it.
Yeah, like, a good example I can think of is in Scream 2, when they're in the sound booth and all of that, and Dewey's on one side of the glass and Gail's on the other, and he's getting, you know, just wrecked by the killer. Sorry, spoiler alert, but again, it's been, like, what, 30 years?
It's been a
Get with
long
it, guys. And her reaction to that, like, it was so very different from, you know, her reaction to something similar in the first movie, but you can tell, like, just how incredibly upset she is by what's happening to Dewey, and it spoke volumes about their relationship that had been happening off screen.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. And that, will say, speaks to the chemistry the actors were able to have, that they had a chemistry that you didn't have to sit there and see every single moment to believe
And
it.
I mean, I'm sure it helped that they were actually an item off screen.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
that
in
would
real
definitely
life, too.
Yeah,
That definitely helps.
Arquette and Cox got married for a bit. I remember even there was a period of time where David Arquette was at WCW, the World Championship Wrestling, and because of things like Scream, he brought Courtney Cox on for an episode of WCW, and Kurt Russell was also there as like a cameo,
Nice.
which was very fascinating.
I didn't realize WCW was still extant by then.
Yeah, because they funded the movie Ready to Rumble, which starred David Arquette and someone who looks like Alex Winters but isn't Alex Winters. And it had, like, most of the WCW cast in it. Like, Macho Man is there, Diamond Dallas Page, like, all these, like, pro wrestlers are in it and stuff. It's an awful movie, but it's a fun movie. And one that maybe we'll talk about at some point in time, because I have the DVD, so pin in that.
All right.
So, Liz,
We'll see.
Liz, I have a question for you.
Okay.
And so you've played this most out of anyone here, and I don't know. I guess my question is, so Song of Horror has multiple women in the cast, but obviously it's designed that the characters are. If I will be maybe a little uncharitably blunt, although I am interested in the game, the characters are designed in a way to be disposable. So how do you feel that they handle, like, making the women cast, like, feel like full characters and expressing their lives as women while being designed to, like, be able to die at a moment's notice and have you switch to the next character, who may be a man, who may be a woman, and so on.
You know, to tell you the truth, I don't think it does. I think Song of Horror, and this is my replay of it got stalled by the fact that DivaBot kept crashing. To be honest, when I tried to run the game, and the last time I tried to run it after reinstalling it and running repair on it yet again, it crashed again.
Oh no!
So, yeah. So I haven't been able to delve into it, which is why I had to table that playthrough. Some of it is, I think, achieved by the fact... I will say, I don't think they put a lot into it. I think they put enough to give you some of what you need. But it is very broad strokes. These characters are very broad strokes. And then I think they rely on the fact that they make these characters, and I think all the characters in Song of Horror, but it's in the case as a woman, the women in it, they make them relatable enough. They give them enough of the strokes so that, and that's why I say that I don't think they do that much, because I think what they instead went for was to make each of these women familiar enough that you as the player recognized them. But you maybe recognize them through different aspects or different lenses, but you still recognize them. They were all people that you had seen at one point or another. Or could relate to in some way or another, either because you knew somebody like them, you had heard a story of, like, maybe you had a family member if it was an older woman, and I think that was kind of what they relied on, was making these people just familiar enough for you as the player to fill in those blanks.
Interesting. It's like
to me,
character shorthand. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really kind of what it feels like. That's a good way of putting it, is because I wouldn't say there's anything particular about anybody's story that you really dive into, with the only exception being, and I can't remember her name, but the one who is supposed to be Daniel's ex-wife. And that's only because you get a little bit more of establish of her connection to Daniel at the beginning, but then that's getting Daniel out. That's the first chapter. The second chapter, it's sort of... I think Song of Horror is more intent on the mystery and the sort of menace that is, what is this thing that is unleashed in this music box? And even then, you're still unraveling. It's a little bit like Riven or Mist, where you're not entirely certain what the mystery is you're unraveling. You're getting pieces and putting it together, and you're putting it together with the imbued characteristics of whoever you're playing at the time. But again, yeah, if you make one wrong move, that person's dead, and now you're back to the beginning. And the only knowledge you have is what you've gained so far. So, but yeah. It's an interesting, which is part of why I wanted to do a replay of Song of Horror, because I don't think any one character stands out to me as that for that reason. But none of them feel particularly bland, like, oh, it's a whole bunch of boring people. But they're not necessarily, like, best way I could think to describe it is, like, say you handed the premise of Song of Horror and to a bunch of, like, writers, like fanfic writers, and said, I bet you could take one of those characters, each of those women characters, and hand it to, say, like 10 different writers, each one to 10 different writers, and say, write a story, and each one of them would characterize the same character a little bit differently, all with the same elements that the game gives you, but with different perspectives on those based off their experience. And in that regard, each one would make sense, because the viewer, again, Rachel, I like your bit of character shorthand. The viewer is filling in the picture around them. Yeah.
That awkward moment where I'm like, what is this game? This sounds fascinating. I go to look it up on Steam. I'm like, I have it. Yes, I should play it.
It's a fun game. I genuinely like it. It's very much horror mystery.
It sounds fascinating, so I'm going to have to... Yeah. This October, when I'm horrifying myself, I'm gonna have to replay it.
And you, Miss of the Heavy Rain love, it is a very choices matter. More just, and there is such a thing as permadeath in it.
Yep.
I also enjoy that their difficulty levels, rather than saying easy, medium, hard, their horror levels, their difficulty levels are described by different popular horror authors.
Nice.
So you play at, like, Edgar Allan Poe level, whereas, like, the highest difficulty is Lovecraft.
Okay.
Just don't do what Liz did.
All right.
That poor groundskeeper.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's a really good stopping point for now. I know that we could probably explore further, diving deep into individual stories and whatnot. But I think that this is a pretty good spot. Don't y'all think?
I think so.
I think so.
I think we've covered a lot of ground.
They always leave the audience wanting just a little bit more.
There's some hints.
Never overstay your welcome.
So, with that in mind, Rachel, where could our Voidwalkers find you? If you have anything to plug or
Yeah.
anything that you would want them to know about.
Or if you are the elusive shadow that hovers
And-
over the web.
These days, I am more of that than I used to be. However, I am on YouTube with some various smatterings of video game playage on, I believe, Countess of Ol. So you can find me there.
OLE.
Oli, or nope. These days it's Shigbot. Le Shigbot.
So, one more quick question. What of everything in this genre is your absolute favorite story?
Oh goodness, absolute favorite story.
Yes.
That's a big question.
You have a long history with this genre.
I really do. Okay, so my favorite cohesive start to finish story that I can think of off the top of my head is The Haunting of Hill House. My favorite franchise? Saw. Got just such a soft spot for it, and there's probably a lot of nostalgia built in, but
You weren't here when we were discussing, and Dave reminded me that there was the Saw-a-thon that I
There
think I had
was.
already I think I had already moved to California at that time,
Mulup.
so I was not on the right side of the country for it.
lip power, my lips. That's an inside joke, y'all.
So, just gotta find that whiskey.
Yep.
All right, Liz, where can our Voidwalkers find you?
Oh, I am on Twitch and on YouTube, but again, everything I have on YouTube is on private because I'm still migrating shit over there, so there's not much. But you can find me on both Twitch and YouTube as Lady Hyacinth 57. Hyacinth, yes, is in the flower, and I'm just gonna go with my usual of no, I did not pick Hyacinth for Bridgerton. I used Hyacinth as an alias. And Rachel can attest to this because you
Way before Bridgerton came around.
You've pretty much known me as long as almost as long as I've been on Steam. That Hyacinth is a long time name. I still love though that I did get the question of, did you pick that name for Bridgerton? And I'm like, I actually only saw Bridgerton last year, and that
I
was
frankly
just
had no
sad.
idea it was even a name in Bridgerton. I just associate it with you because it's been your name for like 15 years. So
I did it first. I know, it's funny to me because it is in Bridgerton. I was like, no, I'm Hyacinth. I'm Hyacinth. And I'm cooler.
Bridgerton says, "Look at me. Your name's mine now. I'm Hyacinth now."
It is fun getting that question, though. I think somebody had asked it, I think, during one of my Resident Evil streams, and I don't know why. It sort of brought me joy because it's the juxtaposition of me, of like, you know, la 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 la, oh fuck!
It could be
Pretty
worse,
flowers.
Liz. They could ask you if it's from Keeping Up Appearances. That
Really?
is a British sitcom, Hyacinth Bouquet.
Thank you. I thought that sounded familiar, but yeah, never watched that, though. Wait for when we get to our talk about British sitcoms, and I can bring up Only When I Laugh. We'll talk about that later. Anyways,
Yes.
Twitch, Lady Hyacinth 57, and YouTube, Lady Hyacinth 57. One day I will make my videos there public, because it's just my Twitch stuff. But
All right.
lots of
well,
Resident Evil gaming. And now, Dave, where can they find you?
Well, y'all can find me at on Twitch, Sheriff_Flynn. You can also find me on YouTube at Sheriff Flynn, which is 3 Fs. And you might be able to find me. I'll keep that to myself a little bit. A little special thing coming.
Mystery.
Sneaky,
But-
sneaky, sneaky.
Mystery, yes. And not Jim Carrey. E, where can our Voidwalkers find you?
All right. Well, also on Twitch and YouTube under Lanzalencia. I don't have to spell it anymore. It's on the screen. Y'all can see that. I'm free. Where I am basically playing whatever comes to mind. I do have a loose schedule wherein Mondays are Mecha Mondays. So I play mech games, all those giant stompy robot fun times. There was going to be more variety, but if you've been keeping along with the streams, you've probably been seeing that almost every night I'm streaming Xenogears because I have fallen deeply in love with this fucking PlayStation 1 RPG from Square back in the day. But so yeah, YouTube and Twitch both are Lanzalencia. There's a bunch of numbers after my... I'm sorry, I'm being attacked by a small gray cat. Hello.
I hear that.
I was gonna say I could hear the kitty.
He's not
happy.
He's not happy. I have fed him 3 times extra tonight than he normally gets. Full meals, and he's still doing this.
I think he's learning that attacking you gets him more food.
Miles, why? You're such a good boy.
I got further bad news for you, E. Your name is on screen, but it's not in our listeners' ears.
Oh,
so
crap.
You're gonna have to spell it.
Audio!
Make sure we put it in the episode description.
LANZALENTZIA. Hoisted by my own petard.
Guess I should spell mine too. SHIGBOT. Shigbot. No spaces.
And we must say to Rachel, loved having you here.
Yes.
Loved
Thank you so
being here.
much.
It was
Looking forward to
delightful.
much more collaboration. I feel like this was a culmination, and I will say this just personally for me because you were very, very pivotal in helping me in my horror introduction. I still remember looking that time we were driving back to your place, Rachel, years ago for Richmond, and I was like, I'm kind of interested in reading Stephen King. Do you know anything? And you just like,
I fire hosed you. Your ear was blasted with all of my knowledge.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I feel like that was definitely like, what can I say? You helped push me into horror.
What can I say except you're welcome?
Now you're gonna get me singing it.
You're welcome.
But yes, thank you for being here, Rachel. It was
a delight.
So awesome.
Also,
yeah.
I'm bringing up potato.
Potato
to also say thank you.
I still love
farewell to potato.
I still love our recent realization that he's courage shaped. Speaking of nowhere, houses in the middle of nowhere earlier.
Yeah. So, paint him pink, bring him here, build a windmill on our property, and boom.
No one is allowed to
He's
call
gonna get
him
his
stupid
courage.
dog. He's adorable. He's not stupid.
Yep.
He's
No
also
one is
my
useless.
He's also totally going to be my tiny little Chris Redfield. I'm going to get him a little green vest and fit the Stars logo on it, and he's going to be my wimpy little Chris Redfield that's attached to my side.
You're not going to give him a bad
Liz, what if
wig
you got-
that
what if
kind
you
of
got him a
covers one
styrofoam
ear.
border?
He's got the
Make
he's
him
got
Leon.
the coloring though. Oh no, he's not Leon. He's not
No,
Leon.
no bad wig that covers just one ear.
He needs a little shoulder pads in the vest to give him the shoulder boulders,
There you go.
so he can properly punch rocks.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Well, his reason
can
for
we
being
get him
my
a
tiny-
styrofoam boulder?
I mean that I could probably find him. No, see, he has to be my tiny Chris Redfield because then since he's glued to my side, it's called. Oh, then I'll just dress as Jill, and that makes him perfect.
There you go.
Looks more like he's sliding down your side.
Yes.
Yawn.
Ooze.
He's drama. He's drama.
Potato-shaped love dog.
For those listening, yes, we are talking about my potato dog.
Yep. All right. Well,
Anyways, everyone out there, thank you for tuning in. This has been the Confabulators. And if you don't know what a confabulator is, who do they need to ask, Dave?
ask Rachel, but be sure that you send a proper email and a check for at least $5 because she's a special guest.
And speaking of folks,
Rachel,
if
what are
you
confabulators? I've been too scared to ask them all these months.
Ask Google.
You
That'll
heard
be
nothing.
$5.
You heard nothing.
And remember, folks, if you have any thoughts, one, please follow, subscribe, like, comment, rate, review our wherever you are getting your podcast, or if you're watching this on YouTube. Also, you can reach out to us with your own thoughts, observations, questions, suggestions on what's our email?
Confabulators@gmail.com.
Confabulators@gmail.com. And we are also on Twitch. We are not doing a whole lot right now, but we do have occasional live streams at Confabulation Station.
Recently did The Haunting starring Poltergeist.
We did. And there will be others.
Yeah.
Not sure what yet, but there will be others. So you guys are welcome there. And of course, please share the love, spread the word.
Yeah.
Share the load.
Exactly. All right. Well, until next time.
Later.
Yep.
The Confabulators is hosted by Liz Strauss and David Bockenkamp. Editor is E.W. Klein. Theme music is Oh Heavens by Cassidy B. Composer and artist, cbrva.card.co.